Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth, where time does not exist, and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised. All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is Thursday, May 2nd, and we have a great show planned for you tonight. We are doing a continuation of our series, The Lands of the Giants, Part 5. So in case you were not with us last week, we kind of picked up where, once again, the author of the book, The Giant Cities of Bashan, is exploring the lands of Palenstine and Lebanon. And as he goes on his journey, he is finding many remnants or remains of giants. Particularly, he has run across twice so far in the book these huge graves where the dimensions of the graves had to be for giants. So in addition, we also discover where the author was describing the surroundings of the various towns and cities he was traveling in throughout Palestine and Lebanon, and he's showing where a lot of the ancient temples of the indigenous people of those lands who were giants were either destroyed or repurposed and turned into Christianized temples through the Hebrews. One thing that we found interesting last week was that one of the temples that he ran across was, and this is the second time he's run across that a similar temple, was the worship of the goddess. And then last week we discovered that also one of the temples that he ran across, which really, really tripped me out, was actually a temple dedicated to one of the fallen angels, Baal, Baal. So we're going to pick up where we left off last week rather, with this book, with the journey of the giants. And then we also have a couple follow-up items as well on the show. So with that said, I will bring on my co-host. Let me bring on Brother Sean, and I see Sis Sandra in the queue. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power, sis. I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing well. It's good to hear your voice.
Likewise.
All right, good deal. Let me bring on Sis Sandra. Peace and love, Sis. How are you?
Peace and love to you, Miss Rhonda and Brother Sean, and the family. How's everybody going and doing?
Doing well.
Fine, and yourself?
Oh, good. I'm doing good. Thank you very much for asking. Appreciate it.
Good to hear your voice, Sis.
It's good to hear you.
Family. Okay, family. So, if you are listening and you want to be online and be in the chat, it's finally Blog Talk has gotten their ish together because they repurposed the chat room. So I am able to open it up this week, and you can type dialogue. So if you do want to jump over on the chat, you can go out to the Facebook page and hit the link and listen to the show via the web, and then you can interact on the chat room as well. All right, then. All right. And then Brother Sean and then Sis Sandra, just let me know if I start sounding scratchy. I'll switch. I don't like to switch too early because I want to make sure I'm able to continue to show on my phone for the entire journey. So just let me know when if I get scratchy, and I'll switch.
Indeed.
All right, family. So before we go into the follow-up items, I want to give my co-host an opportunity with the go-ahead on with the fuckery. So, Sis, do you have any go-ahead on with the fuckery this week?
Well, I'm paying attention. I haven't read the article, but they're talking about the asteroid that's about to hit the planet. NASA's preparing for that, and we should take it seriously. I said, oh, that's nice of them to tell us. Nice
of
I said, you guys are a little late, ain't you? I don't know what their game is except for to put that Revelations out there for everybody to see it now. And, of course, I guess with their event of leaving the planet, it looks like it's ominous for them right now that they have to tell the public about it. And so they won't be able to get off in time for this asteroid to hit. So it's just interesting that everybody is quitting again in the White House. They want to impeach folks really bad now for all of this supposed mess with Russia. And it's just a lot of folks are going absolutely crazy with this new frequency. I have never seen so many children picking up guns and shooting folks. It's just gone whacked. And people don't understand, and some people who are melanated don't get it either, that the frequency is making you wacky. And you need to stop, and you need to think before you speak and yell at folks and go off your rocker atom, because the frequency is really ramping up, and they just don't get it.
Yep, indeed, sis. It's interesting, and I can't remember, Brother Sean, if you sent me a video talking about them talking about that asteroid, because Elon Musk, yeah, they formed some motherfucking committee, didn't they? Formed some committee where he's supposed to be putting a lot of money in, stopping the ad.
They gave him, I think, like $85 million to stop the asteroid. He ain't putting up nothing. They paying him to do it, allegedly.
Right. That's the same dude that said he put a motherfucking car in space, and it looked like a middle school student had put together a graphic project that they was displaying, claiming that the car was in space. Yeah,
like
but
cartoon.
It's straight cartoon. I mean, copy and pasted like a mug effer. And so he the one they allegedly gave $85 million to stop an asteroid. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll just make sure I got the little story together. Okay. But Brother Sean, you have any? Go ahead on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He addressed that, though. He said that's how you know it was real. It looked so fake, it had to be real.
You lying. I know that man that had the balls to say some crap like that.
Yeah, he did. And then he also said that the seats of the car wasn't made out of no special material to be in space. Nothing. He said it was just a regular car. When I find the video, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
because a regular vehicle.
Yeah, because when I saw it on the news, I had to double take, because I'm like, this got to be a straight joke. It's got to be a joke. And, when I saw that it was allegedly real, I'm like, if people believe this bullshit, I just don't have nothing else for them. I just straight don't. So the material, none of that was special. But yet they allegedly needed all this special shit to go to the moon, which they just admitted is inside the atmosphere. Get the fuck out of here with that. Okay, then.
I want to say he's the golden boy, right? He's the one they're paying all his money to do this stuff, right? But yet they bring him up on charges. And he has to defend himself in court. I said, how interesting is that? You're the golden boy, but you go into court?
On charges for, though.
So it's something to do with his company and misrepresenting the company on securities and exchanges or something like that.
Yeah, that's why he had to step down or something like that. Yeah.
The golden boy, but yet they're going to do that to him? They could have let them charges fly by.
Yeah, well, obviously maybe he put his hand in the cookie jar more.
Too much?
Yeah, because I really believe a lot of these gurus that they're putting on, I really believe that it's just that. They're not as sharp or scientific as they're claiming. They're just a front who they want to be for these conglomerate of corporations that ultimately they're funneling money to. So just like you said, Brother Sean, they finna give him this money to stop this asteroid. That's what they do. So they put their particular people as heads of these corporations, and then on the back end, they're getting these government contracts or exclusive deals to run monopolies, and then, you know, the one percenters and the one percenters bosses are getting the cut off of that. So the face of the company is just that, the face of the company, and they have to take orders from whatever, whoever put them on. Because, you know, I have never been impressed with Elon Musk. He ain't invented nothing. All of that technology already existed. And that's even with Tesla. You know, Tesla was given that information. It's ancient science. He was given that information. And so Elon Musk is just implementing just a small portion of what Tesla was talking about in the 1800s. And we're starting to get more and more information that a lot of that technology had been being used for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So what they're calling technological advances, that shit ain't nothing but recycled. It's just recycled. So very, very interesting. Okay, Brother Sean, you have any go ahead on with the fuckery this week?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, family. So I do have follow-up. I told you all every week, literally every week, I am running across at least 2 articles talking about the magnetic pole. Okay, so I only pulled one this week, and then I found another article that's talking about this new plasma technology. So, but we're going to start with the flip of the poles first, because guess who published the article, y'all? It came out today. Newsweek. I can't make this shit up, but we've been telling y'all how long that the poles are flipping. So this is out of Newsweek, their Tech and Science. It came out today. Earth's magnetic North Pole is hurtling towards Siberia, and one day the whole field is going to flip. Okay, so again, shout out to Brother Kalai. He's, you know, one of the melanated brothers, one of the first that also started talking about the poles moving over towards Russia and Europe. So here we go. Earth's magnetic field is behaving strangely. In recent months, scientists discovered the magnetic North Pole was moving far faster than expected, speeding away from the Canadian Arctic towards Siberia. The change in location was so significant that experts had to issue an unscheduled update to the World Magnetic Model. The large-scale representation of the magnetic field, which is used extensively in navigation systems across the world. What caused this unexpected change was not clear, although some scientists have suggested it could be related to the geomagnetic jerks, a phenomenon discovered in the 1970s where the magnetic field accelerates abruptly at random intervals. On top of this, a number of experts have said the magnetic field is due to reverse, and they underlined magnetic field is due to reverse. They underlined it in the article, y'all, meaning the magnetic north and south pole swap places. Intervals between the reversals are irregular, but generally happen a few times every million years. At present, it is thought Earth is overdue one. In an email interview with Newsweek, Phil Livermore, Associate Professor of Geophysics at the University of Leeds, UK, spoke about what is going on with the magnetic field. What is Earth's magnetic field and what does it do? Earth's magnetic field surrounds our planet, acting as an invisible force field that shields life on Earth's surface, including crucial electronic infrastructure structures such as satellites and power grids from harmful radiation from the sun. Okay, so pay attention. They're already dropping coal, prepping of outages, okay, on power grids, satellite, and dropping code about the radiation blasts that are hitting the Earth as well. Although we've been telling y'all that the radiation levels on the ground has risen, and that's why some people are breaking out in lesions and all of that. Okay, so although the geomagnetic field is at least 3 billion years old, according to studies of ancient rocks, its structure has shown persistent fluctuations throughout time, most notably including global polarity reversals, which have occurred hundreds of times during its history. So I'm going to read that again, because we told y'all that it is cyclical. Okay, we told y'all it's cyclical with the poles reversing, which has everything to do with vibrational energy shifts as well. Okay, so they're saying, I'm just going to read that, most notably including global polarity reversals, which have occurred hundreds of times during its history. Many navigation systems ranging from defense systems to smartphone apps rely on accurate knowledge of the magnetic field to determine direction, underlying the importance of understanding how and why it changes. Why does it move? Earth's magnetic field is generally within the Earth's liquid interior, by swirling motions of molten iron. Okay, now that, to me, anytime they mention this molten iron, they are referring to that magnetic black sun, okay, that is in the Arctic, that is also responsible for the aurora borealis, okay, or northern lights. All right, so just like our changeable weather and climate driven by motion within our atmosphere, the magnetic field is constantly on the move. The dynamics of the core are very challenging to understand, principally because the core is separate from us on the Earth's surface by the mantle. They're saying 1,800 miles of solid rock. Okay, then. However, global networks of ground-based observatories and satellite measure changes in the magnetic field, which along with computer models of the core give us insight into the dynamics at the heart of our planet. How fast does the magnetic pole normally move, and how did this change? The first expedition to find the North Magnetic Pole, where the magnet field point vertically downward, was the undertaken by James Clark Ross in 1831. Subsequent expeditions and global observations from both Earth's surface and space allow a reconstruction of the history of the magnetic pole. Prior to 1990, the North Magnetic Pole moved at a sedate speed of 15 kilometers a year. Okay, but in the 1990s, its speed dramatically increased to its present value of 50 to 60 kilometers a year. The position of the North Pole seems to be controlled by a tug-of-war between the patches of magnetic field, one under Siberia and one under Canada. Weakening the Canadian patch explains the acceleration of the pole. Let's see what else we want to go with this, see if anything else. When will the magnetic North Pole get to Siberia, and where will it go after that? The North Magnetic Pole crossed the international date line in the late 2017 and is now on the other side of the world from Canada, heading towards Siberia. If it continues along its current trajectory and speed, within 2 decades it will reach Siberia. They line, it's going to reach it's going to be much faster than that, but whatever. Predicting the geomagnetic field is very difficult. However, it is entirely possible that the magnetic pole may return to Canada in the future. It said, when will the magnetic field next flip? What happened last time it did? The last global reversal, the Runnis Matawama occurred about 780,000 years ago, although a failed reversal. How they know it was failed? They so full of shit. But anyway, the last camp event occurred around 41,000 years ago when the field temporarily reversed and rapidly switched back to its previous polarity. Magnetic flips occur about 3 times per million year, which couples with the current weakening trend of the global magnetic field of about 5% per century, has led to speculation that the planet Earth may be headed for a reversal. Life has clearly survived the many magnetic reversals, and indeed early humans successfully managed to live through the last champ event. It is unclear, however, how a globally changing magnetic field might impact animals with magnoperception that they have. For example, might use to navigate long distances during migration. So I'm not going to read the rest because that's about it. So again, this is off of Newsweek, you all. Came out today in their tech and science section.
Oh.
Earth's magnetic North Pole is hurtling towards Siberia, and one day the whole field is going to flip. Sorry, go ahead.
So that don't make sense because first of all, they said in history that we flash froze. Our people flash froze in the Arctic because and was it 1800s or something like that when we start falling.
When they hit the mini ice age, yeah.
Yeah, when they hit the mini ice age, our people started freezing, and it was a flash flood. They said the mammoth thing flash froze too, with food still in his belly.
In his stomach, yep.
Yeah. So if that's the case, it was less than a million some years ago.
Agreed.
So they're not telling the truth.
Like they always do, like they always lie through their teeth because they're putting the information out there, but they don't want to cause a panic. Okay?
No,
but that's huge for Newsweek to be covering that.
And then the Arctic is they got a hole in the thing because the ice is melting really, really, really fast. The oceans are rising really, really, really fast, and it's predicted that Great Britain and all them people will freeze over there. And China
right,
too.
Because it would make sense that the Arctic would be melting if the poles are shifting, right?
Yep. It all applies to common sense.
Right.
They talk game, but you can see with common sense what's happening. The airplanes are dropping out the dadgum air. So why are they dropping? Oh, they're gyro systems, these black boxes. They're losing compass. They're losing direction. They don't have the equipment for it.
Exactly. And, just take your compass. You can download. I mean, a really good one is the authentic compass with the magnet in it. But you can download one on your phone and just check the direction, and you'll see where north is off-centered on that compass.
Skynet. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so they tell us all of that, but they don't apply it. They give us all this knowledge of what's going to happen, but they do not apply it for the people to understand what is about to happen to them. So people need to pay attention to the fact that you got to apply what they said to what you see. That global warming, all of that stuff is applied to that article right there.
Indeed, and the crazy weather patterns, snowing.
The crazy weather, the tornadoes.
Yep. Exactly. So. all right, family. So the other article that I have is about plasma. I about fell out. This one is called The Conversation. And I picked up the article yesterday, but it came out April 29th. And it says, non-thermal plasma, new technology. I can't make this stuff up now. New technology could kill 99.9% of the deadly germs in the air. You can live without food for 3 weeks and without water for up to 3 days, but you can't live without air for more than 3 short minutes. It is not just the abundance of air that matters. The quality is essential too. Unfortunately, air can be contaminated with dangerous germs known as airborne pathogens, such as bacteria and viruses. Airborne diseases are very easily transmitted and can result in respiratory illness that can be life-threatening. It's therefore no wonder that outbreaks of airborne infectious diseases are a major public health concern and that researchers are working hard to come up with technology to provide clean air. So far, however, such technologies have had limited success. Now, here's where the fuckery come in, because we know that this is ancient technology, y'all. Now, a new study suggests that non-thermal plasma, a cool gas made up... I'm sorry. Did you say something, Brother Sean? No, okay. Now, a new study suggests that non-thermal plasma, a cool gas made up of electrical charged particles, despite having no overall charge, could inactivate airborne viruses and provide sterile air. Although the technology has a long history and many applications in medicine and food industry, this is a completely new use for it. So it just talks about the flu and being very contagious. It even throws in there that it could also do something with HIV, cancer patients. So I'm going to get to it. Clearing the air. There are air disinfection methods currently available, but they have severe limitation. Ultraviolet, germatical irradiation, for example, is a disinfection method that uses ultraviolet light to kill or inactivate microorganisms by destroying their DNA so that they cannot reproduce inside the body. Okay? So now even that ultraviolet light family, that is also ancient technology because everything is made up of light. And the higher the spectrum of light, so meaning when you get into the purple stratosphere, that represents the highest vibration. Okay, so it matches your chakra. Okay, so that's why they said the ultraviolet. So think about higher vibrations, ultraviolet. That would make sense that would be able to wipe things out. Okay. All right, let me see. So it's saying, however, if they keep using that it will have health effects that are damaging to the skin, and what else?
I have a thing to say.
That's about all. I'm not going to read all of that, but just to, once again, let you all know, now they're talking about plasma being able to clean up the sky. Oh, really? So now explain to me why that plasma is shooting across the motherfucking sky on its own. Let's discuss that. What's the plasma doing there? Could it possibly
people get that measles stuff. The measles is on the rise. Why?
Well, that's a different story. We can talk about that.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be cleaning the air.
Right. Well, that measles stuff, just pause on that for a second. Let me get back to my statement with this plasma. Okay, so now, again, I'm going to go back to the documented footage of people recording the plasma shooting across the sky.
Purple sky.
What are those colors? Mother Earth cleansing herself of all
Yep.
of the pathogens, all of the motherfucking chemtrails, and other things that they put in the sky, but now you're going to try to convince me that you didn't come up with some technology dealing with plasma to clean up the sky? Okay, then, again, I want you to go outside and you explain that to the elements and Mother Earth how you done discovered that. And as that plasma tastes you in your ass, it'll show you who is who and who's running things. So, okay, sis, go ahead on.
So that brings us down to the germ factor they're talking about in that article. It's supposed to be the plasma is going to cleanse, right? And the DNA. I'm reaching back from some science. It's the germ factor of production of humans and how we came about. And if the DNA is alien to this planet, then the possibilities of diseases hitting these people is going to be really high instead of as low as they say. Because the Mother Earth is cleansing, I shouldn't do this, is cleansing itself from the alien DNA that's present on the planet.
Exactly.
So these people are coming up with measles like it's going out of business. And I know these children that they're quarantining at UCLA and all that kind of stuff have already been vaccinated before the anti-vaccines came on the scene. So what's happening now?
And it's interesting because I think Brother Sean sent me a link where somebody busted their ass out about that measles outbreak over in, wasn't it Israel? They were saying it was a measles outbreak. And we saw where...
And the Hasidic population of the Jews, too.
Right.
They don't believe in vaccination.
Right,
and
but
so
hear what we're saying, because somebody did the research, and they saw where they're faking the news. And,
right.
I apologize, I don't have the man's YouTube channel information, but he literally showed the news story that they were running with this doctor holding this baby in his arms with measles. They took a fucking photo stock picture of a regular baby without the measles and then turned around and photoshopped it and put measles on the baby. So, they are once again doing some propaganda on these supposed outbreaks. Now, will outbreaks happen? Probably so, as, things are changing on the planet, and, folks have to be in tune in order to survive it. But, once again, I caution the family, use discernment when you are listening to their fucking news stories, because 99% of the time, they're lying through their teeth or they're throwing their own spin on it. So I highly question the measles outbreak. To me, they're trying to scare people into getting vaccinations where they can inject you with who knows what the hell they're going to try to inject you with, because people are waking up and they are not subjecting themselves of their children to the poison in the vaccinations.
Right. Those kids should have had the vaccines already. So maybe they're trying to chip people, Involuntarily, they're trying to chip people, giving them that measles vaccine. Because most of these kids, I'm in the medical field. They had to get it a long time ago. As babies. I gave them to them. I gave them shots. So I'm trying to figure out, wait a minute, how is this working?
How did they get it? Right.
How are they getting this stuff? It don't make sense.
Right. Well, I know the story that I saw. The outbreak is happening because it's people that aren't unvaccinated children. Wait a minute. So it should just be unvaccinated children getting it, right? Because
right.
if you vaccinated your child, then one don't have nothing to do with the other. But I'm supposed to be Willie Lump Lump. And, let me go on and get my child vaccinated. Get the fuck out of here with that. Be consistent with your lies.
And they're making laws to have them done. They're making laws that are making them. They can't come out their territory without a vaccine. I said, wait a minute, this is a power grab here on this stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Good luck with enforcing that. Good luck, because no matter what they try to do to get the population to fall back asleep to vaccinate their children, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That, as they say, cat is already out the bag, and it's not going back in. So they can forget that. They definitely can forget that. So just want to give the family an update. And now they're starting to talk about the plasma more and more. And again, that's no coincidence, because, shout out to all of the people on YouTube, just regular, everyday people that they want to call conspiracy theorists, but they got their fucking receipts with their videos and their pictures. Okay? So shout out to them for documenting what is going on in the skies. All right, so the other thing that I want to share with the family was really, really interesting. Brother Sean dropped this video on me right before we jumped on the air, and it's a sister on YouTube called Dr. Mumby, the Dr. Mumby Show. I like her. She puts out a lot of good information. I can't remember. Is she out of the UK or is she in Africa?
She's in Africa.
Okay, she's in Africa. Okay, so
yeah,
this
she all
video,
about Africa.
Yeah, she's done some excellent work. So I highly recommend you check her out. And she doesn't typically have long videos, no more than 15 minutes. So she did a video recently. Yeah, I about fell over when Brother Sean sent me this, talking about that the UK has opened the door to pay reparations to Africans that has been impacted by colonization. So I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna be on and popping. So I'm going to play this particular video, and again, I highly encourage you check this sister out. She has a lot of great stuff on her channel. It's Dr. Mumby Show. The title of this particular video is "Wow, EU to Pay Reparations." So hold on a second, family.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumby Show. My name is Dr. Mumby Saraki. How are you doing? How's everything going? I pray you're well in all your ways and that you are living your best life. Thanks to everybody who subscribes and comments and shares our videos. We appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks to all my Patreon and PayPal families. You guys are amazing. Thanks for your support. Now, some interesting news coming out of the European Parliament. So as you know, the European Parliament has actually been meeting this week. I think it's their major conference or summit or whatever. And they have actually signed a resolution where they are calling for reparations of Africa. I was like, am I dreaming? Seriously, you guys, at this point, I'm also starting to think, how come all these things are happening? How come everyone is apologizing and whatever? And first of all, we can't need apologies, as my grandmother, as my or grandmother would say. So, but what happened is that the European Parliament overwhelmingly backed a watershed resolution calling for reparations for crimes committed in Africa during European colonialism. Now, 535 members of the European Parliament were actually signed for the resolution. About 44 were absent and 80 signed against. But that's unprecedented. That's a huge, huge number. And so they basically had three major points that they were calling for. Number one, they said that the declassification of colonial archives and the issue of public apologies. Now, I just found out when they said that actually a lot of these former colonial governments have classified their worst atrocities of, the colonial era. So there's certain periods where, the most disturbing periods, that's what they call them, which have not been opened up to the public. So what they were calling for is that these should be made, these should be declassified, they should be made available to the public, and then, a public apology should be made. But I'm just like, they did more. So what we know is only what we know, but they did more. Like, how traumatizing is that? So the second thing they said is they urged the EU member states to introduce a series of sweeping reforms aimed at tackling structural racism facing millions of Afro-Europeans. And lastly, they called for nationwide strategies to deal with discrimination in education, health, housing policies, policing, because the same police brutality that's happening in the U.S. is the same thing that's happening in a lot of European countries. It's absolutely sick and atrocious. In fact, during the break, I'll show you this video that I just got from the UK of this plainclothes policeman literally pulling an American cop on this young, on this young African. He literally looks like a boy or a teenage boy, and it makes you wonder, I copy pasting, because I read somewhere that actually the U.S., the Chicago cops had actually I think they'd gone to the UK and also to South Africa to kind of exchange notes on how to deal with us. I mean, come on, let's not be, but those are stories for other days. So they said, because a lot of these Afro-Europeans, now they're claiming the Afro-Europeans have actually, they continue to suffer. We've seen a lot of discrimination, especially with a huge Muslim influx into Europe right now. The traditional African, the ones who have been there longer, kind of get caught up in that. Anyway, we'll see what happens. What do you guys think? This is unprecedented. And the resolution was actually drawn by this British Labour member of the European Parliament. They're called MEPs. He's called Claude Moraes. And I'm wondering, is the UK trying to create beef for the EU before they exit? Because they weren't even, if everything had gone according to the people's will, Britain wouldn't even be there right now. But, he said, so he was looking at the situation that happened with there's this Italian lady who is a member of the European Parliament right now, but before that, she was actually the very first black government minister, and she faced a lot of discrimination. I'll share details about her really inspiring story right after the break. But he was saying that he was inspired by her story to kind of to kind of bring this to Parliament. And a lot of activists are seeing this as absolutely huge, that the EU has voted. I don't care what people say. The fact that the EU Parliament has called for the reparations of, on EU countries against Africans, absolutely amazing news. But when I come back, is this enough? What do we want? Because neocolonialism is very much there. Are they going to also apologize and stop being neocolonialists? We'll be right back.
Wake up, Africa!
We have had about 6 reparation march from Brixton to Parliament Square, and it has really helped to highlight and galvanize the reparation movement. It has been a movement for a long time, but it's been dormant and not much has been said. It's been there, but most conscious people would tell you that African people must get reparation. So reparation has been a part of our struggle. So the march started in 2014, instigated primarily by the Rastafari movement and other organizations, and then it was pretty much abandoned, and then it was taken over by the African Emancipation Day Reparation March Committee. So we do it on the 1st of August, because on the 1st of August was the Emancipation Day.
Yeah.
But for us, we know we're not emancipated, so we use that day as our day to demand for reparation.
Yes.
To let the world to galvanize attention on the issue of reparation globally.
Yeah.
So that is the day that we set aside to say that's Reparation Day. And we have a few demands.
Yeah.
One of the main demands is that we're demanding an all-party Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry for Truth and Reparatory Justice at the UK parliamentary level and at the EU level, and this commission would be to investigate the damage of enslavement and colonialism on existing Africans today. We'll look at our condition. Is there any connection to colonialism and to enslavement, and see how we can fix it, if there is. So the first thing we're calling, before we even talk about money, before we talk about repatriation and anything else, we want to have a commission of inquiry to investigate, to study the problem, and also recommend how we can fix it.
So, ballpark figure, how much money do we want back?
Well, we don't tend to discuss money because we have the economists, the financial experts, all these great people that done all these mathematical equations. We will be using the experts to do the calculations about what will be a fair compensation, because reparation has 5 main pillars, and we're talking about compensation, rehabilitation, restitution, satisfaction, and guarantee of non-repetition. So it's a big package in reparation. So compensation is only one area. It's only one area, and obviously it will be in the trillions. So let me just throw that out there for anybody who are wondering if we are ducking the issue of money. We are not. Issue of money is essential to reparation, but it's not the only thing in doing reparation. The essential part of reparation is the repairing of the damage that was done to our people. We have lost our name, we have lost our language, we have lost our culture, we have lost our identity, we have lost a sense of who we are as a people, we have lost our peoplehood, our sovereignty. You know, so we are practically stateless as a diasporan African. So we want to repair that damage that was done. You know what I'm saying? And repair our connection to our brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa as well. So a lot of healing needs to take place, and communication and bridge building, you know, and I like your building bridges.
I love it. Awesome.
So that's what has to be done. And I like what you're doing because it's a part of that connection. It's a part of the healing process for us as African people. You know what I mean? And there's always this criticism that we don't see our African from the continent involved in our cause, or highlighting our cause, or communicating with us. And we're calling on our brothers and sisters from the continent, get involved in the reparation movement. Get involved in the reparation march.
Wake up, Africa!
Welcome back to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. Unprecedented news coming out of the European major assembly, Parliament Assembly, European Parliament. Absolutely fantastic news, where a resolution drawn up by a British Labour MEP, Claude Moraes, has called on the EU nations to pay reparations for the atrocities they committed during European colonialism, and to also reveal, to declassify some of those files, that have been kept from the public eye, declassify the colonial archives covering the most disturbing periods of colonialism, and to issue a public apology. I'm telling you, these guys know what time it is. We may still not know what time it is, but these guys know what time it is. And what do you guys make of all these apologies? I mean, last week it was Belgium, then the Australians apologized to the Aboriginals, and all this stuff. I mean, everybody's apologized. The Germans went and apologized to, was it Namibia or Angola? I think it was, I can't even remember. I think it was Namibia. As in, we've just been seeing all these apologies coming. But I find it quite hypocritical, because a lot of the exploitation is still happening. So is an apology enough? I hope our leaders just don't eat it up and take paper money like that's all we need. Because I think the only way we'll know that the apology is sincere is if we start to now see them taking stringent measures to ensure that this never happens again, that they don't need colonize us either economically, culturally, etc., and they allow Africa to be its own person. But those are stories for other days. And I want to mention this because I've been really wanting to talk about how important it is for Africans or Afro-Europeans, it's it sounds so cheesy, but I really wanted to stress to all my African brothers and sisters, especially the ones who are born and raised in Europe, whether you're from Belgium, whether you're in Belgium, Germany, wherever, or you got naturalized. It's time for you to step into positions of politics, and it's time for us to also, I mean, because I know one thing I realized when I was in the UK is that our people are very organized. Everyone has their associations there, even if it's Zimbabweans or Kenyans or whatever. People have their organizations. So why can't we support our own? Because I even met a Kenyan, well, you know, I spoke to a Kenyan counselor. Unfortunately, I couldn't interview her because she was, sitting for exams. But she's a Kenyan, UK counselor, and she wants to move up the ladder. We saw France. Macron actually just appointed a spokesperson, from Senegal, who went there when she was 18. And now this lady, I mean, this story has really, really inspired me. So this lady, she's called Kienge. I'm hoping I pronounced her name right. She's Congolese, and she's the one who inspired this whole bill for reparations. And what happened is that the text of the resolution actually said, histories of injustice against Africans and people of African descent, including enslavement, forced labor, racial apartheid, massacre, genocide in the context of European colonialism and transatlantic slave trade, remain largely unrecognized and unaccounted for at an institutional level in EU states. Powerful, and they were basically saying this has to change. So this lady who has inspired this whole resolution and drive is actually a lady who goes by the name of Cecil Kienge. She's Italy's first black government minister, and now she's a member of European Parliament. And her story is really amazing. So her background: she's an eye doctor. She's of Congolese descent. She moved to Italy when she was around 18 years old, actually 19, and moved up the ladder, got into politics, and then from 2013 to 2014, she was actually the Minister of Integration, and she became Italy's very first black minister. Hey, soon, who knows, black minister. But Italy has a lot of issues with racism, and so there were so many slurs that she got, even publicly, from members of parliament, etc., questioning her heritage and everything. And she was just like, she just shrugged them off, and she actually came out and she was just like, I've seen that there's some difficulties describing me. I am Italo-Congolese and black, not colored. And she says she's so proud to be black, and that's part of her heritage, but she has, the Italian culture influenced her and the Congolese. So imagine, this is just like reverse colonialism. But why can't we see more and more of our people taking office, becoming MPs, becoming, prime minister? Let's get an Obama in Europe for real, but not part of the New World Order, somebody who's a bit Pan-Africanist, because Obama's a good globalist, right? People still believe in him being this hero. It's totally crazy. So I just really, really am inspired. And I'm inspired by Cecil Kienge. You guys need to check out her story. Really, really strong woman. And I'm telling you, you see when Italy was calling out France for being part of the problem with racism and part of the problem with the immigration and how they were still colonizing their 14 nations. And it created a lot of friction between Italy and France. But a lot of people behind the scenes were saying that Cecil Kienge and other minority MPs, basically black MPs in the Italian parliament, etc., they're the ones who push and agitate for this and change the narrative. So we need to, pull a James Bond, go in and wreak havoc from inside. But anyway, EU is going to pay us back. Is money going to be enough? What do you guys think? Do you accept, the apology? Apology accepted? Apology rejected? Let me know. Don't forget to like and share this video. Until next time. Mwah.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up and wake up.
All right, families. So again, that's off of the YouTube channel, Dr. Mumby Show. She has other great videos out there as well. She also does some spirituality stuff as well. The title of that video is "Wow, EU to Pay Reparations." So I'll pause in case Sis or Brother Shine, you want to put something on it.
I'm kind of confused. the way they saying it is the way everybody feels about who we are, but that ain't the way we feel about who we are. We feel that we're the ones that was leading this country. Not the indigenous people were taking over, but we have that video where the guy said that they didn't start colonizing Africa until 1865. So it's kind of confusing to me where we really stand as a people, because they're saying they need reparations for their slavery, and I guess they're talking about the continental United States and we're giving them reparations too, but you can't well, I don't know. I'm confused.
Yeah, because she did not say the United States. I didn't hear her not in one time mention the United States, which she shouldn't have mentioned the United States, because bottom line is Africa was colonized. So, but that has nothing to do with the Americas. So, I just thought it was interesting, me personally, that the EU is saying that they have all of the documentation and now they're going to unclassify it. So, like I've been saying, they cannot convince me that if the transatlantic slave narrative happened the way they claim that it happened, meaning from Africa to the Americas, that they don't have no motherfucking documentation. We know that they have documentation because at the end of the day, it's about commerce. So the America slavery did not happen the way that they said. And she did not say reparations for slavery. What did she say the reparations are for?
Colonization. Exactly.
So I'll pause. Brother Sean, did you have any feedback?
Well, as you pointed out, she said nothing about America or quote-unquote African Americans.
Yep.
She seems to be a pretty intelligent sister that's aware of what's going on around her and her people. Now, I've been checking out some various channels from quote-unquote Africa. Ain't none of them niggas looking for these niggas over here.
Nope. Not a nary one. Not a nary.
Ain't claiming none. They ain't trying to be American. Nothing. Nope. They trying to handle business for their thing. But
so
we want to be them, and they having a hard enough time being.
We want to be them. I don't know.
What you say, Brother Sean?
I say they having a hard enough time being who they are and know who they are.
Indeed.
But it's the EU that's talking about paying them reparations. So,
the European Union, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the whole thing is, while she's talking like Europe is a million miles away from there and had to slip in that Atlantic slave trade stuff, with the Europeans down to y'all over there, they ain't have to get on no damn boat.
No.
They walked around the corner.
Yep.
For real, they didn't know how to sail. The Moors hadn't taught them yet. They was too far inland.
Right. But, it depends on which Europeans you're talking about. So, trying to put it on the Caucasian Europeans. We know that's not the total story, because we know who was sitting on the thrones at the time all of that was going on. It was the black nobility, or melanated folks. And thank you for pointing that out, that she said European Union. So you all need to look up all of the nations that is a part of that European Union. Okay, so it's more than about the UK. I think France is funky ass is in there. Italy, Greece. I can't name them all off the top of my head, but yeah, go look up who is all a part of that European Union situation. So again, we just kind of wanted to give you all the update of that, and I'm just gonna throw this out there for folks in the U.S. that are claiming to be African American. So if the European Union just opened the door for reparations for colonization and all of that, so now where are you on that list? And why hasn't Africa reached out to you to get your just due? So that's just something for you all to consider, those that are in the Americas claiming the status of African American and seeking reparations. Do your research, look into it a little deeper, because it's not the way you've been taught. Unless you are truly, truly from Africa, that's a different story. Do you, boo? But if you are not, which most of the people carrying that title of African American, you are not. And then on top of that, in the Americas, we have given you the research on how the first Slav or slaves were white Europeans. Okay? So you better rethink that, because more than likely your ancestry, and that's each person's responsibility to do the research of their genealogy, you're going to trace back to Europe and the Americas. So just wanted to give you that update on what's going on with Africa, and thank you, Brother Sean, for sending me that video. And shout out to Dr. Mumbi for that information. Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
Just one little.
I see you 248. I'm coming to you, sweetheart.
On the ticker today, it shows that Farrakhan and Alex Jones were barred from Instagram and Facebook as being dangerous. So, with the slave mentality that's permeating our people over here, how dangerous are they? I don't know. Because our culture teaches us we come from over there, and that's not true. And Mr. Farrakhan teaches all that stuff to his people. So,
Well, I can say this with the Alex Jones stuff, and I remember when he was at the height of his popularity, it was just certain things that didn't wash out with him. And to me, it felt like he was being handed a script.
Exactly.
And, sure enough, folks came back and proved that he was flip-flopping on some things, kind of researched his background and saw how he was, tied in basically with the same system that he's trying to condemn. So they're doing nothing but using the both of them as patsies to shut the truther community up. So in other words, Farrakhan would represent the melanated folks, and especially, the ones that speak of black power, the red black and green hotepers. That's their way of sending a warning out to them. And then the Alex Jones folks sending a message out to all of the prepper community and the folks that talk about sovereignty. So I already know what they trying to pull. They trying to pull a fear tactic, and what Facebook needs to realize, don't nobody give a fuck about you. I mean, truly, Facebook, don't nobody give a fuck about, like the young children say, no fucks is given. Because, you know, these social media platforms get their ass on their back thinking that the people need them. No, boo. The people made you, not the other way around. So you can pull all of the psyops you want, calling yourselves trying to control the narrative on your platforms. It'll be another platform that'll spring up just as well, and especially these millennials. You know, they're very tech savvy, and they don't like the motherfucking establishment anyway. So keep on playing Facebook. Keep on. Because as a matter of fact, you check Facebook numbers, and young folks don't even fuck with Facebook like that. The millennials don't even really fuck with Facebook like that. So, you know, I've been saying it about Facebook, YouTube, all of them. No one gives any fucks. There's no fucks to give. Because you are replaceable. The people make you. So that's what I have to say on that. Okay, so I'm going to come to 248 and then 832. I'm coming to you. Okay. 248, your line is open.
Hi. I just wanted to say about Dr. Mumbi Saraki. I've been following her for a while, and I was happy to hear that you have posted up one of her videos. But the thing is that she does have some videos where she has been traveling all over the United States and also the UK, and meeting with lots of not the, when you say African American leaders, I don't mean like the designated ones, officially sanctioned ones, but people who really are doing work in the community and different people who are somewhat conscious, to try to encourage them to visit and to think about repatriating Africa. And she had a brother from Ghana and people from Kenya, and they traveled all over Africa and even went to South Africa. And she frequently showcases, like what life is really like in Nairobi, apartments that you could buy and different things. So, but and then there's that Shashamani land where in Ethiopia, where a lot of the Jamaicans have repatriated or gone to because of the land that was set aside by, the Emperor Haile Selassie. So there are Americans moving back, and she even has a video where they're saying that, it's not for all African Americans. Africa's not for all, because some people don't want to live that rugged of a life, but for those who genuinely would desire to, that ascribe to that Pan-Africanist philosophy, well, they're welcoming them. So it's not really quite the case that all the Africans have excluded us and don't think about us, because they realize that it's a diaspora. We don't know how far back it goes, but there are connections. We don't really have enough information. We're just at the point now where we are reassembling information that's been stolen and hidden from us. There's still missing pieces, so we can't say definitively where we're from. We don't know. It could be Mars for all we really know at this point. But it's beautiful that you found the connection to the black nobility and the Europeans and how they came here and this, that, the other. We still don't know where this invader, for lack of another word, came from.
Right. Right.
But one thing we know for sure, we were all around this planet, in antiquity. We were. But at what point we settled where, we don't know because we don't have the records. But there is a connection, and I still say even if, because I've heard it said that genetically, there are Africans whose, I guess their genotype is different, or their DNA is different than, and even some of their blood types is different than African Americans. Now, we don't know if that was natural development or if that's a result of genetic manipulation. Don't know. But all I can say is if they're welcoming us, for those who want to go, should check it out. Travel's always a good thing.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't necessarily go there and settle there and say, oh, that's my homeland, because then there's that whole, I don't know if they will ever give us reparations here. But, they're pretending and playing you with it, like Cory Booker and the different ones running, talking about, they're going to study it.
Yep.
They're going to study it until the day after hell freeze over, okay, if they can.
Exactly.
They're not going to never give us nothing. And so I'm surprised that they did a resolution in the EU because, they're typically a racist group of, but something is up. Something is definitely up. Because Dr. Mumby on April the 15th posted up a video talking about, wow, the Pope kisses the feet of the South Sudan leaders. Okay? Now, that was very bizarre. He could barely get down there, but he made sure he did it. Certain rituals, have to be done, certain things that they're doing. And we don't understand the significance of them, but something is up. It's almost like the mothership is going to return or something, and they done told these hunkies they got to get right. I don't know. But it's something to think about. It's something going on. And they're sending all these people, melanated people, into all these different formerly lily white countries. And the UN and the EU, they're behind that. And the Vatican, the Pope just revealed today. He's not even trying to hide that he's sponsoring the migrant caravans that are flooding into the southern border of the U.S. now. He just issued an open statement and $500,000 saying that it's going to be funneled through 25 different organizations or something like that to assist the migrants in coming into the United States, even though it's in violation of existing law. But
their law.
That's what's up.
According to them. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that, sis. Yeah, thank you for coming
Well, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to chime in.
No, that's a good point, because I had forgot about Dr. Mumbi putting out the video. Yeah, so that's why I encourage the family, go check out her work. She has a nice body of work. I like the way she puts things together. So thank you so much, sis, for calling.
And thank you all too. All right.
Okay, sis. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Okay, and it's interesting. I'm coming to you, Brother 832. I'm glad she brought up about the Pope.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Kissing of the feet, because that was straight ritual, y'all. Now, this is my 2 cents on it, and again, this is my 2 cents. I felt it was very ritualistic, and I think they're bringing forth these things to symbolize the change of power from, Caucasian rule to melanated rule, from a public view perception, because behind closed doors, the Pope was bowing down anyway to melanated. I'm going to say that again. Behind closed doors, he was already bowing down to melanated. Okay, just one example is the melanated Madonna and Child. Okay, through our research, when we were doing on Black nobility, and we went through those family names that still rule in Europe today, and particularly they said the stronghold is over in Italy. These are melanated nobility behind the scenes that's running shit anyway. And that the people that you see that appear to be running things were appointed that. Okay, so now they have been given their orders to put out the message and do these rituals that the quote quote melanated people are returning to power, and they've been wrong. Okay, and the reason they are doing that, not because it's out of the kindness of their motherfucking heart, none of that. It is because of the switching of the frequency and the vibration. And remember, to keep anything going, they need consent. Okay? And the energy is no longer at a vibratory rate of the way they were running things before. So now they're going to try to switch it back with the illusion that, power needs to be changed over to the melanated people. But the catch is, what are we really getting back? Is it the same bullshit-ass system? Or is it truly changed? So now those are some of the things as not only just melanated people, but just in general. Look at the entire system. What are they really giving you back? Because you weren't supposed to be under any bullshit-ass system anyway. You have a natural inheritance as being a part of Mother Earth. You are naturally a guardian of Mother Earth. So I ask again, what are they really, quote, quote, giving you back? Are they offering you back an illusion of control of the same system that they have set up to enslave the world? So just something to think about. Just my 2 cents. So let me go to Brother 832. Hey, Brother 832, your line is open.
Rhonda, Sandra, my sisters from other vistas. Feathers up.
Feathers up.
White and black colonizers down. Sean, my brother from another mother, sitting on Mount Olympus, throwing the blank lightning bolts down today.
Indeed, bro. How's it going?
Oh, man, I was getting run off the line last week, but I really wanted to get into those 14 supposed melanated presidents before watching them. However, living my best life. I ain't going back and forth with you. I'm living my best life.
I started playing now. Back and forth with you, Blanky's living my best life. I think I'm going to rock out with that song tonight.
Now, a little tidbit. This is an article. I can't remember the title or where it came from, just the snippet. In the context of reparation, which I found very intriguing, this expert, using air quotes, stated that something in the neighborhood of 222 plus billion man-hours would have to be considered only in the United States colonies. I'm going to be very specific, just as Dr. Mumby, through not acknowledging where are the core colonialist movement are you talking about it other than in the New World first. But anyway, put that aside. Right. At a rate of minimum wage of $15 an hour, would you care to hazard a guess what he threw around as a ballpark figure, my sister?
Oh, man, $15. I'm insulted by the motherfucking 15 an hour. That's an insult.
Yeah, when you talk about minimum wage, quote unquote.
That's
but again,
an insult.
Yeah, well, but that would be in the context of wage slavery of contemporary times, obviously, and making a projection backwards. However, the roundabout figure was $97 trillion, which to me would be a down payment. But anyway, that was one thing to consider in the context of that one article. Second, when we're talking reparations, which is, I'm confused, like my sister said. Explain first, what is it you're repairing? Not you personally or Sean or Son.
Right.
But when you use such a word, what are you stating first and foremost? If you haven't seen this other brother, oh gosh, what's his name? Darity. Dr. Darity. Are you familiar with him?
I don't think I am.
Cole goes by an interesting white nickname of Sandy, which ain't got nothing to do with his actual name. But I'm trying to remember exactly where he was. He's from a university that talks between him and Claude Anderson. They're kind of preeminent here on the reparations agenda in what we call North America, or as Dane more accurately describes. And by the way, he got the phrase Turtle Island and Nietzsche from the War Department records. Were you aware of that?
Wow, really?
The War Department records, which would be colonial America until the Civil War. Okay, we call it today Department of Defense. Yeah, well, I'm pointing it out for an example about when you say these people are now going to claim to declassify something. But here, again, these people have the knowledge and the facts of who we are. I'll get back to that for a moment. Let me just stick with the context of this argument of reparation. This brother Darity says it has to be acknowledged. Acknowledged, he calls it art. Acknowledged. Then it has to be redressed. Then it has to be closure. ARC. Acknowledgement, redress, closure. Okay. Acknowledgement does not mean apology.
True.
But it is something that people come to a conclusion, kind of like the ignorant conversation we just heard with these two people. Whether that brother was African or not, or from the Caribbean from his accent, they are both colonial British subjects by the mere fact that they have an English accent. Okay? He has also made the statement that they had their language and their belief system and their God taken from them. That's kind of questionable, but let me just give them the argument for a second just to expand on. These people who are from Africa, Sean, you can fill out the blanks of where I'm preparing this, but Africa was a colony, if you will, in ancient Greek time, was it not? It was referring to a North African region, not the entire continent, right? Y'all covered this before in another
like
show.
A state.
I forgot what show it was.
The size of it was like a state, yes.
Now, was that ancient Greece or ancient Rome? I think it probably fell under the Roman Empire at some point in time. And then you have these, but then you have these things and these analogies of saying you got Africanus, which is opposed to Caesar or Roman general, I can't remember which. You have Amerigo Vespucci, which, by the way, is another Italian, that some people want claim that is the name America originating from. Then you have the Moors who profess a mixum, right? Please correct me at any time when I'm in error with this context. So when I say white and black colonizers, we must be very careful when we're discussing not only this confusion of an African-American designation, and we've talked about this before. Sean and I brought this up repeatedly. These Moors unleashed these dogs of hell on us, okay? They came over here, and I don't care how you land this out, whether we get to declassified documents or not. Every European explorer from 1492 onward had a Moorish navigator, did they not, brother? And how did they find the so-called New World? When they said on their maps, and I don't know if you know this, Rhonda, maybe you'll get one and we'll discuss this to continue this conversation, not just with black nobility, but where they want to identify the lands of the giants, and they identify all these lands. They put it on a paper and called it a map, right? They said beyond this point, first of all, it was going to fall off the earth because they believed in a flat earth theory. Second, it said there be monsters, something to that. And beyond these boundaried areas that they had never experienced or come across, they say there be monsters. So this is a connotation that kept a mindset internal to what we call white European Caucasians today, that the earth was flat and it was a limited space that you could traverse. So who brought that psychological barrier to an end. In other words, who take these? I don't watch it, but I know you're familiar with the Game of Thrones series.
Yeah, I don't watch it either, but yeah, I'm familiar.
And maybe Sean, I know, or whoever, but you understand the term they have with the White Walkers, right, Sean? These were these albino hordes that they had built a wall to keep them on the other side. Okay?
I'm not familiar with Game of Thrones. I never watched it. I never watched Game of Thrones.
Well, it's all metaphor for them because their entire existence is constant warfare and in conflict with an inhospitable environment. If you're familiar with the Iceman's Inheritance, Michael Pratt, he talks about that, the connotation of the Caucasian or the so-called white European man having evolved over time in an inhospitable, ice-barren climate that we refer to as the Great White North, whether it's Canada, Siberia, Northern Europe, wherever you want to talk about. And again, we still don't know the point of origin. Like the sister just preceding me said, whether you call them invaders, intruders, colonizers, I doubt we can even say the term exploring, because exploring and discovering implies something wasn't there before you came across it, right?
Right.
Now, in reference to the Pope having been raised Catholic, I'll speak on this very clearly and declaratively. I've said this before. There are two papal bulls in particular. Sandra brings it up repeatedly, Dom Diversus, but there's one that precedes it in the 1300s, and I need to go back and get the actual name. But at some period of time in the first couple of decades of the 1300s, written on what we either call parchment, but it is similar to leather because it was stripped off of the back of a human being and written down that all souls on planet Earth were owned by the Vatican. Can we just take a pause for a moment in the arrogance of such a notion?
Right.
Then from 1300s, early 1300s, Dom Diversus was then expressed in 1452 that the whole world was to be discovered under Catholic agenda and dogma, or what they call the Universal Church. And then 40 years later, we got the hordes released on us, starting with Cristobal Colon or Christopher Colon. But again, if you're to believe the first three popes were of Africa, if you're to believe the first Christian Orthodox institution was out of Ethiopia, right, Sean? And if you're to believe, or if we can actually have knowledge now, that 1611 and King James was a melanated agenda from a black nobility that said, and I'm saying all this for context reason about getting back to, and I've said this before, it's a very simple thing with three letters, W-H-Y. Why are they here, my sisters, my brother? Why is everybody all over the planet literally escaping their origins,
their home,
to get here and to tell us what, in the process of exploration, discovery, oppression, chattel slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, integration, what is it now today? And how many name changes? As I've heard that brother say in that video that you talked about, he used and professed that they've had their culture taken from them, their name, their God belief taken from them. And that may or may not be true in Jamaica, in the original British Isles, because you know what you've said in these last few weeks about the original melanated Europeans, right? Mm-hmm. But even at that, who has had it done worse and magnified than us indigenous, aboriginal, autochthonous people in the North, Central, and South Americas? And I yield, my sister.
Indeed, brother, indeed. Thank you so much, Brother 832. Very well said. Peace and love. I am watching this Netflix series. I'm almost done with it. Like I said, since I did the series on black nobility. I never used to like European period films back up in the 1300s and them. That shit used to put me to sleep. But now with this new information, now I'm all glued in, looking at the pictures and saying, okay, that makes sense. So anyhow, Netflix, it's an old series. It's called Versailles. Okay, and it ran for 3 seasons. And it's talking about Louis the 15th's ass during his rule. Dude that built Versailles, of course, melanated. It talks about him and his brother Philippe. And now I'm to the point, because throughout the series, of course it's soap opera-y, so all of you men that ain't into the soap opera stuff, that's going to kind of turn you off a little bit. But you're going to see in there how the black nobility across Europe were marrying other European black nobility for power and position, okay? So meaning, for example, in order to either stop a war or part of a treaty, they would marry into the family, okay? Because as a matter of fact, Louis 15th married his wife was from Spain, okay? So, getting up to see, and in the series, you're going to see nobility from Africa come over to Europe. So, I think that's what you, Brother Sean, that said, do they realize that they was just right around the corner from Europe and Africa? So, and in this particular series, they show where the African nobility traveled over to the European nobility, and in this case, it was France, and was doing business as well, okay? But their business was really of minerals. Now, as it got into the series, it kept talking about the war breaking out between Belgium and Spain, okay? And the underlying story is the battle between the two churches, so meaning the Catholic Church and the Protestant, okay? So remember, who was the Protestant of the nobilities? That's that Stuart bloodline. Okay, and they even mentioned the Stuart bloodline in the movie, or in this series rather. And Louis the 15th, he tolerated Protestants, but he was flip-flopping depending on the situation. Now, where it really started to get really interesting is when France started to run out of money. Okay, they were going bankrupt. Okay, from all of the wars, all right? And the people started to go hungry because they were taxing them to death. So what did they do? Or Louis and them came up with? Let's start even taking over more territory. So the war that had broke out between France and Belgium was over those companies. Those same companies that we traced in the Black Nobility series that we were telling you all that they were going across the planet, colonizing and putting patents on the lands, rolling them up to these companies. Literally, in this series, they mentioned those same exact companies. Okay, so Belgium and France are at war. It's over monetary. Okay, then they showed in the series where the Catholic Church takes their motherfucking cut. And what was really just deep, that I just sat there with my mouth open in this series, because Philippe had cut a deal Who did he cut that deal with? I can't remember if it was Spain. I think it was Spain he cut a deal with in regards to the ports. So that's why I keep telling you all they kept meticulous record of what goes in the ports, what comes out of the ports, way back then. Okay, because it was commerce. So in this particular deal, that matter of fact, I take that back. Someone from Africa, which they're calling the Middle East now, had came over to talk business, and so they wind up cutting a deal on entries of port for goods, and Philippe had cut his deal, and then the Catholic Church got a piece of it, and the Catholic Church sanctioned or gave the go-ahead for this deal to go down. Okay. Now, in addition to that, the broker France became, they had to expand out to new lands in order to colonize, to put the taxation through their companies that they were going to set up in these new lands, as well as capture the ports, because the ports are a big money maker. Okay, and then they talk about how they were going to war with Belgium over the one company, and then I'm at the part now where he's battling with Spain because Louis wants to control all of Spain, and Spain, like, you can go somewhere with that, you're not gonna get it. So they're going back and forth playing these war games. And so, long story short, the thing that just blew my wig totally back in the series, Philippe, so the brother of Louis, said, you know what? We're going to have to go to the New World. We're going to start exploring the New World. And so then, and it may have even been King Louis. And so his cabinet or parliament, I forget what, it's not parliament, whatever he called his close circle of advisors, said they pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing here, was like, man, the soldiers not finna go to no so-and-so new world. They done been fighting a war for years. They wore out, they're tired, they just not gonna do it. So Philippe, the brother of King Louis, said, open up the jails and send them over to the New World. It'll save us money anyway. The jails are full. And I will personally pick who I want to go over to the New World. So he told one of the advisors to pull all of the jail records. And he was literally, I'm at the point now where he's literally going to the different jails and physically looking at the prisoners and saying, nope, you too thin, you gonna die. Now, remember, this is France. He literally told one man, you too thin, you too weak, you will never survive the journey over to the New World. So he's literally interviewing people, sizing them up with these prisoners to make the determination who is coming over to the New World. Okay, so make no mistake about it. Out the gate, it has always been about commerce, because everywhere these particular set of people go, these nobility folks, they run their economies in the ground. So the only way that they can keep living is to conquer new territories, and they come in, set up the companies, and tax the people, seize the ports, and the particular church gets a cut of it. Okay, so the war between the Protestants and the Catholics, it wasn't about no religion. It was about monetary and land. I keep telling you all, the wealth is in the land and the people. You are a part of the land is a part of you. You seize the land, you seize the people, you tax the people on the land, you extract the resources out the land. Okay? So I just wanted to share that with the family, how nothing has changed. It's still the same system from way back when. So that's why I made the statement earlier. In my opinion, if they are talking about reparations, if they are talking about, quote, quote, turning back over power to the melanated people, what are they actually turning back over to you? Because this current system of enslavement, it goes back pretty far. And it's a proven fallen system. So now we have enough information to make better decisions. Because like I have said, sovereignty, freedom, it starts within your mind. And if you feel somebody needs to give you something monetarily or give you some position or some title to make you free, really aren't you just swapping out the same slavery system? Isn't really the wool being pulled over your eyes to keep you asleep for what is really going on? That you are supposed to be in tune with yourself, first of all, because you should not even be tolerating answering to someone just to simply exist in your own inheritance. So, just something to think of. So, I'll pause in case you all want to put something on it. And I know I owed you all the last of the little first melanated prayers. I'll run through those right quick. But, sis or Brother Sean, if you wanted to put something on it, I'll yield.
Yeah. I'm just... When did we all become the same? No other time in written history or her story is it written or in the oral tradition that we all are one, that we all come from the same stock, that there is one diaspora that we all emerge from. I mean, what? I know we fail, but are we that sick that we're the exact same DNA family and we're doing these things to each other? Are we that sick? Did we fall that far? I mean, I know we have instances of incest and this, that, or the other, but on a diaspora, I mean, I'm just wondering. I mean, everybody's so convinced that Africa is the wherewithal of everything, that it is the Alpha and the Omega, but won't even look at the word.
Indeed.
We say who we are. We've done the research on our bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
But other people still want to say that we're all one thing. That's not my reality. we need to know who self is before we get to labeling other people.
Indeed.
And once you find out who you are, I don't think you found anywhere in your family tree where it said go around and make everybody be us. But that's just me. Because, I mean, I've been looking where, you know, as far as for my family and my ancestry, I've just never found nobody trying to claim everybody and trying to be a part of everybody. And, you know, I'm not a part of the royal bloodline. People speak on this royal bloodline, this reptilian bloodline, and this stuff. I guess we all one too, right?
Yep. And the Giants bloodline.
I mean,
and the Anunnaki bloodline.
Right. I mean, even though all throughout history, there's been different motherfuckers who wasn't the same motherfucker. Because you got motherfuckers taken from other motherfuckers all the goddamn time.
Exactly.
And marrying off into their bloodline. So if they was the same, why would they have to marry off into the bloodline? I mean, I guess I'm just confused, maybe. I'm just missing something, and I'll accept that I'm missing the bigger picture. I'm happy with my reality.
Indeed. Point well taken. And also, a point of interest, if you just do a little research on Louis XV of France coming to the New World, you'll see, well, of course, they got their asses kicked, and they starved to death, this, that, and the third. So I found this interesting because they started sending women over to marry their particular men, and then they said that they were encouraging marriages with their men to the indigenous people of America's women. And we told you all that, and we didn't need no books to tell us that, because we researched our own genealogy and we found it. We found where the European colonizers, and again, the black nobility was sitting on the throne at that time, when they were sending their people over, that a lot of those people married in with the indigenous women. Okay? So that's how today we carry those surnames. So I'm with Brother Sean, because it seems like even with this Giant series that we're doing, it was the same script, unless I'm missing something. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We only in 50-something pages, but it was the same script. Okay, go over there, scout out that land. Okay, so we can't beat them. Well, we're going to try to beat them. Okay, well, if we can't beat them, let's, marry in. Still beat them again. Sign some paperwork. And then next thing you know, that territory becomes Greek or Roman. Okay? So the indigenous people heritage was pretty much wiped out. All you see is remnants of their ancient worship, and you see where their ancient worship temples were repurposed for Greek and Roman service and temple. So I'm just still like, when are we going to face the facts of what really happened? Okay. And Africa, I'm with Brother Sean. We have this fantasy about what it is. And it's truly a fantasy. Because if you do the research, the Americas was more advanced, and Africa, again, was split up into all of these different kingdoms that had all other types of species on it. You can pull the ancient maps and see it. And that's including white people that were over there. So, I mean, it is what it is, people. Everybody's free to believe what they want to believe. All we can do is put the information out there. But, again, I highly recommend, and I say this every week, it is everybody's responsibility to research your individual heritage. We should not be passing down to our children. We originated from woo, 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 and you can't tell your babies where they great-great-great-great-grandmother and grandfather came from. When you have access to the information in your hand, but you want to tell them they're from Africa so many thousands and millions of years ago, but we won't take the time out to find who your bloodline is a couple of hundred years ago. So as, quote, quote, indigenous Americans that are calling ourselves African Americans, are we really just burying our head in the sand? Are we really just not wanting to face the facts because we want to hold on to this fantasy? So, just something to think about. So, sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean.
What the family need to understand is misinformation and miseducation are weapons of war.
Yes.
These people are taking from you everything that you are, everything that your ancestors are. And you want to fight with your own people who want you to just take a look at yourself, not trying to get you to buy somebody books or donate no money or none of that shit. Look at your own damn DNA. Look at your own people. That's it. And that's going to put all the rest of that bullshit to rest. If you just want to join the Africa, go back to Africa group, club, whatever, on Facebook, whatever, to learn about their culture, which most of us know more about than our own, and don't even know the truth about that. But, I mean, you can always just study world history and get to know everybody else's stuff. Is out there abundantly. But you're not going to find the truth about you and your bloodline. You're going to find stories about classifications and groups and things like that. But you're never going to find anything that ties you directly back to anything. But that's your choice. But know that there's consequences with this.
Yep.
That's why they're going through all this trouble to keep you confused about who you are and where you're from. And as you see, what you're claiming now ain't saved nobody.
Indeed. Okay. All right, family. So I know I owed you, and because I know we need to get into part 4 tonight, but I owed you the second half of the list of the names of the first melanated, aka black presidents before George Washington. So we counted 14, right, Sean? So here's the second part of the list. So yeah, I was kind of blown away by some of this because some of these names, I'm like, oh, hell to the no. So here we go. So we're gonna start at Ellis Benoit, and that's French, probably butchering it, but whatever. He served from 1782 to 1783. He arrived, his relative arrived in the Americas in 1686. And I'm not sure if this was a woman. I'm assuming it was. It was Ellie Boudoir. Okay, arrived in New York in 1686. All right. What else? Oh, this was interesting. Now I can't make this up because that name has some other people tied to it. So that Ellis Watt also showed up as a Cherokee from 1802 to 1839 as a Cherokee Indian journalist and publisher. Huh.
Wow.
Pause. Yeah. Pause, pick. Yeah, ain't that deep? I'm like, yeah, So this is just proving our point when we did the Black Nobility series. All right, so records show that name came over here in 1686. One of the bloodline served as one of the first presidents before George Washington in 1782 to 1783. Okay, but then you have the same name, Ellis Boudoir, showing up as a Cherokee Indian journalist. All right. And then they just named a couple of other of that particular surname, and they were all tied up in politics. One was in, I guess that's that same name. They kept renaming the same exact name. One showed up, they're saying, as the president of the Continental Congress from 1740 to 1821. That same name is showing up again. So even prior to the other Ellis Benoit from 1782 to 1783. And then they had someone, because they kept apparently in this bloodline using that same name, and then someone with the middle name Cornelius was in a congressman from 1835 to 1890. And I found interesting that they had a journalist, a 21st century American writer. Okay, and we want to know why history is all jacked up. Oh, okay then. Okay. So this one is going out to, people that live in the Columbus, Ohio area. You want to know where that name Mifflin came from. I'm like, So you had Thomas Mifflin served as a continental president before George Washington, melanated man, 1783 to 1784, so 1 year. Okay, and remember when we read last week, they could only serve a total of 2 years, I think it was, back then. Okay, so that Mifflin name first hit the American shores through their ancestor, George Mifflin, who landed in Philly in 1745. But that name Mifflin goes back to Scotland. That shouldn't be any surprise to us. All the way back to 1069. All right. So next name, Richard Henry Lee, served from 1784 to 1785. Their particular ancestry, Andrew Henry, came into Virginia 1651. That name Henry is origin from, and this should not be any surprise to us. Damn, I just had it, y'all. Irish, my bad. Irish. Okay. Let's see how far back that goes. They didn't give any date. Now, I also looked up the surname Lee because the Richard Henry Lee, and I'm guessing that they concatenated probably mother and father surname together, because this was a man who served from 1784 to 1785, so I researched the Lee name. Okay, get ready, y'all. So when you think of the Lee name, what do you think? Don't you think of Asiatic or Asian?
Yeah, or General Custer Lee, Bruce Lee.
Right. But typically you think of an Asian name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Bridget Lee, the Lee name first came over to Americas in 1620. Here is the origin of that name. It can be found in three places. Chinese, we knew that, but they're saying the origin of the Lee name is English, and it can also be found in Ireland or Irish. So it says the name Lee was carried to England in the enormous movement from the Norman conquest of 1066. The Lee family lived in any of the various places named Leigh in England. So Leigh. So they're saying the original origin of Lee, it could be traced back to them taking that name from a region in England called, if you want to say Leigh, Legh, or Lee, back from 1066, and it says there are at least 16 counties that contain a place named Leigh. The place name was originally derived from an old English word Leigh, Leah, which means wood clearing. The English Lee family is descended from the Norman Lee family. The family name Lee became popular in England after the Norman conquest, when William the Conqueror gave his friends and relatives most of the land formerly owned by the Anglo-Saxon aristocrats. The Normans frequently adopted the names of their recently acquired estates in England. Okay? And as I was telling you, as I'm watching this series on Netflix called Versailles, you're going to hear them talk about all of these Anglo-Saxons, the Stuarts. You're going to hear them talk about all of those and how they're warring over territory, marrying into different families. You're going to see how in Louis XV's court, he gives out land to his particular nobles. Hope y'all catching what I'm telling you. So inside the king's court, or how New York them say, his boys them, they are given the title of nobles. And he gives them land, okay? And he gives them estates, okay? But these estates and land were stuff that was based on conquest that they had taken from other indigenous people. But anyhow, and you'll see throughout this particular series, when they get pissed with somebody in the noble, in the court, that he'll snatch the land from them or tell them, you owe me so many years of back taxes. Well, you told me I didn't have to pay taxes. Well, goddamn it, you got to pay them now. So very, very interesting dynamics that they're showing in this series. So let me see what else they got in here. Okay, that's all. Okay, so we know about John Hancock. Remember, John Hancock showed up last week, but John Hancock served again from 1785 to 1786. Then we have Norman Gorman served from 1786 to 1787. Their relative came over Matthew Gorman in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1746. And Brother Sean, I noticed a lot of these late players coming through Philly. Okay, so
oh yeah, that was the quote unquote capital.
Right. And now what the Moors are saying is de jure, right? So, all right. So yeah. So let me see. Anything on them? So that name ties back to Irish. It also has English origins. And of course, it ties back to one of the monarchs, specifically one of the monarchs of Ireland. Okay. Another one. Shoot. Okay. Arthur St. Clair, 1787 to 1788. Their relative Thomas St. Clair came over, not to see. Woo, that's really, really close, y'all. Came over Baltimore, 1783. So now you tell me, how you gonna just hit the shores, blood, and here your family member is the president? Oh, okay then. Okay. All right. So that particular surname, St. Clair, is Scottish origin, and it also has English. Let me see. Seeing if they give some dates. Okay, and so that St. Clair name was first found in Suffolk, where they held a family seat. I keep telling you, every name of these 14 melanated presidents before George Washington, each and every one of them had ties back to the European melanated black nobility crown. Every last one of them. Okay? All right. So they held a seat, a family seat, from very early times and were granted lands by Duke William of Normandy. Okay? That was back in 1066. Okay? So most of the stuff that we talked about, these names going back to 1066, that should tell you that that battle that they had was apparently they were taking over the indigenous people's land of that time. Okay? Same difference. They never changed the script. None of it is new. That's how they went around the planet conquering lands. All right. Next name, Cypress Griffin, 1788 to 1789. Their ancestor, Reginald Griffin, landed in Virginia in 1621. That particular Griffin name, that shouldn't be a surprise to us, is saying Irish alternative. I thought that was interesting. The Griffin name is derived from Welsh. It's the personal name Gruffin, or Griffith. These were pet forms of the Middle Welsh name Gruffud, which was borne by many Welsh princes. Again, ties back to the crown. The name came to Ireland in the 12th century with Anglo-Norman invasion. There we go again, of Strongbow. There were also a native Irish land whose name originally appeared as Grobatha, which is derived from the word Grobatha, which means griffin-like. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Seems like somebody hijacked somebody's identity right there. Because they said, now I guess you could take native as somebody coming in, but somebody just picked up somebody's name and gave it a retwist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the surname Griffin, okay, but that wasn't the original one. They have went through several iterations of that name, but they took it from some indigenous population and put their little spin on it. So it says again, the surname Griffin was first found in the province of Munster, where they had been granted lands, can't make this up, by Strongbow, another battle, Strongbow gave them land, after the Anglo-Norman invasion into Ireland in 1172. So remember when we were doing the Black Nobility series, we were telling you how the slaughtering of the indigenous black Irish was going on. Okay, so that's how a lot of the Stuarts and them got over to the Americas. But as you can see, the invasion happened before they were sent over to the Americas, right? Because back in 1172, this battle happened, taking indigenous people's land, giving it to their people.
You know that
okay.
The name you're saying, referee, it sounds like the referee, the fallen ones. It's kind of like a derivative of the referees or the Nephilims and all that kind of thing. Referee, and with that kind of sound to it when you read it. So they may be descendants of the referee, the fallen ones, the giants. And they use these kind of names that sound like their names. Because I remember reading that the presidents of this country are part of the fallen ones' genetics.
Well, they truly like to claim them, even if they're not a part of the genetics. They sure in the hell like to claim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Merovingians and stuff like that's when I was doing a bloodline of all these presidents, they came off that bloodline.
Off of the what bloodline, sis? I'm sorry.
The Merovingian.
Ah, okay, but isn't that a Italy name?
Well, yeah, you said they were coming from Malta in that area, yeah. So they come out of that area, but see, they have because I looked at Bush and I looked at all of them. They're all related, and they came off the Merovingian bloodline, and
right,
then that's Venetians too. You know what I'm saying? Because
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I said that the Venetians still runs the seat of power behind the scenes. That's who they're calling the Black Mafia.
The Castle of 300 and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Right. So meaning, that's why I said, the black nobility never really went away. They just, put their relatives in them as they were mixing with Caucasian bloodline. They just put their relatives into those positions. But the true
now
seat of
something that's
power,
like,
they still hold in those particular bloodlines. And Italy holds a very strong black nobility stronghold, and supposedly they are still controlling everything, especially from a banking perspective, because banking started over there. So I'm sorry.
But something else that popped in my mind too. They were originally called black.
You mean
the Blanc?
The Caucasians?
Yes, they were originally called black. They were not white. They were originally the blacks. And they switched that identity and gave it to us to call themselves the white, because they were originally called blacks. So when you keep saying the blacks, it popped in my head. Wait a minute, that's what they were called.
Right.
Because blanc is pale, and so they were called black.
Right, but that's not who I'm talking about. I'm
talking
about melanated folks. But you do bring up a good point, because in that Versailles series, I got to give y'all a little bit away. I said, oh, hell to the no, the F they did not. So Louis the 15th was married to his wife was from Spain. Okay, he never really was into her. So he had all kind of side chicks, having babies with side chicks. I think they had one little boy together. So he was doing his thing. She was doing her thing as much as she can on the low. So they showed her messing around with, well, they didn't show her messing around, but it was implied that she was messing around with one of her servants who was they call midget, and I don't want to offend anybody. I forget the politically correct name, okay, but he was a midget, okay, and so I thought dude was a eunuch, okay, so she was pregnant, and because of course in this series they're showing white people serving these roles, but mind you, King Louis's wife got motherfucking French braids in her hair, and I was cracking up, y'all. I'm like, they think we stupid. Literally, she got her hair up in the bun with these, and that pattern was sharp as hell. I ain't gonna front. The pattern was sharp as hell in her bun, okay? And Louis looked like dude that plays Superfly, y'all, but the white version of him. I can't make this shit up. You know how Superfly had the long ass perm? So that's how Louis looks in this series. Okay, so anyhow, I thought that her little servant that she was close to, he was melanated. I thought he was a eunuch. So she was pregnant, so she gives birth, and the baby comes out melanated. And so it was this whole big thing. So instead of him killing the baby, he said that the baby had died, but they sent the baby to an orphanage. And then when the visitors from Africa came over, they wind up taking the baby back. So the first thing that popped in my mind, why I'm telling you this story, so they just reversing it up, because we know that the first slaves and servants or indentured servants were Caucasian in Europe. So now you really switching it. So really she would have been messing around with a Caucasian dude, and the baby came out really, really light. So you just brought up a very good point, sis, how they, switch out terms, switch out identities, just to basically keep the people confused. Okay. All right, family. So that's the end of all of the first 14 melanated presidents. Every last one of those names tie back to Europe and the Europe crown. Every last one of them. Yes.
Okay, Merovingian. Of course, it has myrrh in there, M-E-R, so, that's part of their claim.
Right.
They created them, allegedly. So, if they are part of the royal bloodline, then they had to use their own DNA in creating them, mixing it with whatever else they mixed it with.
Right.
It just goes to show how far they're willing to go to spread their seed in order to have power.
Yep. Yep.
But that didn't include everybody because they had to have subjects. They had to have people to rule over.
That's right.
So, in those conquests, they renamed people and places and made them subjects and citizens.
That's right.
Now, if everybody wants to say that they are a part of that bloodline, have at it. Continue to confess that to the universe. Continue to keep telling yourself that because you have the power to make it a reality. So when you become that, be prepared for that karma that comes with that. I mean, it's your choice. You're volunteering for it. You're claiming the history. You're claiming the legacy. You're claiming the quote-unquote rights. You're doing it to yourself. Ain't no need pointing the finger at the quote-unquote white man or nobody else. Just because somebody tell you something don't mean you have to do it.
Indeed.
I'm done.
All right. Okay, family. So we promise you we're getting into the land of the giants. We're back into the series. So we're reading from the book, The Giant Cities of Bashan. This book came out in 1865, and it is about a man who was commissioned to go over to the ancient cities, biblical cities, okay, and document, all right? And as he is doing his travels, he's saying he's traveling like Palenstine, Lebanon, okay, so what they're now calling the Middle East. But last time I checked, is that not Africa, or am I missing something? But, whatever, what they renamed Africa. But anyhow, so during his travels, he's documenting what he is seeing as he's going through these different lands, and he's, describing most of the land as being desertous, barren, a lot of ancient structures torn down, and you can see where, the Greeks and Romans came through. He also seen pre-ancient ruins prior to the Greeks and Romans who, claimed that Hebrew bloodline. And he's documenting where the giants roamed there. He documented graves that have the size and dimensions. It had to be giants, no doubt about it. Okay, so if you are following along with us, you can get this book, a PDF file. You can download it. We're on page 51. And so it says the prophecy change to history. I confess it was with feelings of awe I looked from time to time out of those desolate but still beautiful slopes to the more desolate plain. I knew what caused the desolation. The silence, too, awed me yet more, for it was profound. The voice of nature itself was hushed, and not a leaf in the forest rustled. There is always something cheerful, something reviving to the flagging spirit in the unceasing murmur of the great city, now rising and now falling on the breeze as one approaches it or passes by, and in the continuous hum of a rural scene where the call of the herd and the whistle of the plowman and the roll of the wagon and the bleating of the flock and the lowering of the kine melt into one of nature's choruses. Here, city studded the whole country, but the stillness of death reigned in them. There was no plowman in the field, no shepherd on the hillside, no flock on the pasture, no wagon, no wayfarer on the road. Yet there was a time when the land teemed with an industrious, a bustling, a joyous population. At that time, prophets wrote, "Your highways shall be desolate." So he's quoting Leviticus. The wayfaring man ceaseth. The earth mourned and languisheth. He's quoting Isaiah. The land shall be utterly emptied on the utterly spoiled, for the Lord hath spoken this word. Therefore hath the curses devoured the land. Therefore the inhabitants of the land are consumed, and a few men left. Every house is shut up, the mirth of the land is gone, and the city is left desolate, and the gate is smitten with destruction. So he's quoting Isaiah. Many of the people of those days doubtless thought the prophets were but gloomy dreamers, just as many in our own day regard their writings as gorgeous fancy pictures of Eastern poets. But with my own eyes I saw that the time has changed every prediction into a historical fact. I saw now, and I saw at every step through Bashan, that the visions of the prophets were not delusions, that they were not, even as some modern critics suppose, highly wrought figures, intended perhaps to foreshadow in faint outline a few leading facts of the country's future story. I saw that they were, one and all, graphic and detailed descriptions of real events, which the divine spirit opened up to the prophet's eyes through the long vista of ages. The language is doubtless beautiful. The style is poetic and gorgeous. Eastern imagery is often employed to give sublimity to the visions of the seer and to the words of the Lord, but this does not take away one iota from their truth, nor does it detract in the slightest degree from their graphic power. Were the same holy men inspired now by the same divine spirits to describe the actual state of Palestine, they could not possibly select language more appropriate or more graphic than that found in their own predictions written thousands of years ago. This is no vague statement made at random or pined for effect. God forbid I should ever pine a single line rashly or thoughtlessly on such a topic. It is the result of years of study and years of travel. It is the result of a calm and thorough comparison of each prophecy of Scripture regarding Palestine's history and doom with its fulfillment upon the spot. I had no preconceived theory of prophetic interpretation to defend. My mind was not biased by a false faith in literality on the one side, nor by a fatal skepticism regarding prophetic reality on the other. Opportunities were afforded me of examining evidence, of testing witnesses, of seeing with my own eyes the truth or the falsehood of Bible predictions. I embrace these opportunities as God gave them and to the utmost of my power and the best of my ability. I examine deliberately, cautiously, and I believe conscientiously. Well, I would have disagreed with them, but I'll get to that. My examinations extended over all Palestine and most other biblical lands or Bible lands. And now I thank God that with the fullest and deepest conviction that all the ingenuity of modern criticism and all the plausibility of modern scientific skepticism can never overthrow, can never shake. I can take up and re-echo the cheering statement of our blessed Lord and proclaim my belief before the world that till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle, is that title? Tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till the fulfilled. All right, I need to pause on that because he just basically, he ain't saying shit there. So I just want to recap why he painting this beautiful picture of this prophecy. Did we just not read about one page up that this desolate land, now that it's desolate in 1865, he coming back to visit. But was it not occupied by someone else before the Hebrews got there, or am I just making that up?
I don't know. It was people there doing they wanted to.
Okay. So did not the Hebrews come in and conquer and take the land from the indigenous people that they call heathens?
Mm-hmm.
But they said in the one case of was it Samson? Who was the one that had his hair was his strength? I don't want to lie upon the name.
Samson and Delilah.
Okay, yeah, so Samson. So was he not saying that, Samson had his stuff together, and Samson was a high priest? And
That's
was
right.
indigenous to the land, and he was in a secret order as a high priest.
Nazarene. That's right.
Okay, but the indigenous people, they were heathens, though. And now the people that occupied Palestine in 1865, they're cursed, according to biblical prophecy. Oh, okay then. Just making sure I got the story straight. All right. So I observed around Kenneth, and especially in the thickest part of the forest on the way to Swayadai, I may be pronouncing that wrong, that many of the largest and finest oak trees were burnt almost through near the ground, and that a vast number of huge trunks were lying black and charred among the stones and the brushwood. I wonder at what appeared to be a piece of wanton and toilsome destruction, and I asked Mahmoud if he could explain. The Bedouin do it, he replied. They make large quantities of charcoal for the Damascus market, as well as for home use, and that they may get more easily at the branches, which are the only parts of the tree used. They kindle a fire around the roots of the largest oak, burn them deeply, and then the first blast of wind blows them over, and the burls are chopped off with little axes. But I said, in this way they destroyed vast quantity of splendid timber. True, but they don't care. All they want is a present supply, and they try to get it at the easiest way possible. They will soon make your mountains as bare as Jezebelish shake. Where will you go for firewood and charcoal then? You are fools to permit such needless waste and destruction. So I'm going to pause because I'm going to refresh y'all memory because he's being hypocritical. And y'all going to remember what I'm talking about. King James Stewart. Stewart was his mama maiden name. He had to issue a decree to not cut down any more trees because they had wiped out the trees over in England. So, you talking about these people because of what? Because you all did the same thing over in England to the point where a law had to be issued for you to stop cutting down the trees. So now, how is what they're doing any different than what your own country is doing or was doing?
Can you think of what size trees those were? Maybe that's what happened. But they used it for charcoal. They do that process in England. They have people who cut down trees and burn it for charcoal. I saw a guy do it on one of these home shows. But maybe they're the ones who chopped down the great oak trees, the 9 feet wide, 900 feet wide trees and stuff.
Yeah,
maybe they're the ones.
Trees.
Yeah, maybe they're the ones who chopped that stuff down.
Well, we do know that it's documented on record that they were chopping down trees in their own nation, and we can see over in the Americas where you had what they're calling the early English settlers, Caucasians, cutting down giant trees over here, and not the real big ancient ones, y'all. We're talking the sequoias in California. It's documented, and all across the Americas, actually. It's documented of these trees being cut down. Hell, all you have to do is look at New York. Those islands were islands with trees and hills. So all of that had to be excavated to make New York into what it is today. And so he had the gall to sit up and talk about somebody else when they had ran through their own homeland and was over there starving. The people were literally starving. Their economy had collapsed. That's why they sought out the New World. But okay then. All right. So, oh my Lord, said Mahmoud. And there was a degree of solemnity and pathos both in his tone and in his words. Oh my Lord. It is you, Franks, alone, who have wisdom. Now, I want to slap the shit out of him. He's trying to convince me that this man is praising him for having so much wisdom to look to the future and power to provide for it. Yeah, right. Well, anyway, what can we do in this unhappy country? We are all wanderers, here today, away tomorrow. You hear that shit, Sean? We are all wanderers, here today, away tomorrow. Okay, so you saying that Mahmoud and them saying that they're wanderers. I'm going to ask again, who were the Hebrews? Who's doing more wandering around this planet?
But the Bedouins also was a Arab type group of people, and they were wanderers too, and they did a lot of destruction. as well. You have them over there in the east right now, not the East Coast, but in the east of the world, the Bedouins. And they mentioned that in that when you were reading.
Yeah, that's who they talking about cutting down the trees. The Bedouin. That's who we talking about.
Yeah, the Bedouins. They look like us, kind of dark, but they're not us.
Right.
But it also states though that they didn't chop the trees down; they burned the roots.
Burned them up, yeah.
And then the wind blew them down. All they wanted was the branches to be able to make charcoal with. So they were basically killing the trees just for the branches.
Well, that means that the trees were too big for them to actually chop, so they had to burn the branches.
The roots. They burned the roots to get the branches.
So I still say again, the Wanderer title also applies to the Hebrew. All right. So, so this is supposedly what Mahmoud is saying. Should we attempt to preserve these oaks, or to plant vineyards and olives, or to spend labor and money on fields or houses, we would only be working out our own ruin. The Bedouin would be attracted in clouds round the tempting fruit, and the Turks would come, drive us out with their cannon, and seize our whole property. No, we can have no permanent interest in the ground. We can only hold it as we have got it by the sword, and the poorer it looks, the less will our enemies covet it. That's deep. So he's basically saying they really don't give a damn about the land. And the justification he's saying they don't give a damn about the land because the more ghetto it looks, the more they can chill on it. All right.
Don't nobody else want it.
Right, don't nobody else want it. Oh, okay then. So, it was a sad picture and unfortunately a true one. By such mad acts and by still more wanton destruction in times of war and of party and family struggles, fruit trees and forests have almost been annihilated in Palestine. Oh, okay, I'm going to pause again. We're going to bring that back to the New World. Could you not have, it is documented that you could really, it was so many trees in North America, I'm just going to start with the East Coast, that you could swing from tree to tree, from one state to the other without your foot ever hitting the ground? Okay, so
that
we
target
talking
and swinging tree to tree thing came from.
Oh, that's interesting. So we talking the Dutch. As a matter of fact, they talked about the Dutch in that Versailles Netflix thing too. So you talking the Dutch hitting the East Coast, England, them. So when Europe hit North America, it was plush. It had fruit trees. Did they not excavate the trees? Did they not hunt the foxes and the animals for fur and for trade and excavate the land, and particularly New York? Now, what they're calling islands really just has a bunch of buildings. And if you ever taken a drive through the different states getting to New York, you will literally see where hills of stone were blown through in order to build the roads. So how many trees, how many species have been lost for the colonization of Europe? But yet you want to talk about Palenstine and them. Okay? And mind you, by 1865, because remember, this journey took place in 1865. That's when it was really in full force, setting up their company to clearly complete the colonization of the Americas. But you want to talk about what Palenstine and them has done. Oh, okay then. All right, so and would it not seem as if the old prophets had been able to look down through the mist of long centuries and to see the progress and the effects of this very mode of ruin and desolation clearly as I saw it in Bashan? Oh, okay, so you see it in Bashan, but you don't see it in Europe? Oh, okay then. Isaiah thus wrote, the defense city shall be desolated, and the habitation forsaken, and left like a wilderness, and there shall the calf feed, and there shall he lie down and consume the branches thereof. When the broths thereof are withered, they shall be broken off. The woman come and set them on fire, for it is a people of no understanding. So that's out of Isaiah. He's quoting. Descending from Kenneth, I saw about a mile to the right the deserted town of, I don't know, Atoll, Burkhardt, and one or two other visited it, but I was compelled from want of time to pass it by. It contains some fine buildings, among which are two beautiful temples nearly perfect. One of them was built in the 14th year of the Emperor Anton, AD 150, as a Greek inscription tells us. Okay, so remember once again, when he described the ancient ruins, the ruins of the indigenous people of that land, and he says indigenous people, that they were there prior to the Greeks. All right? So anyhow, like Kenneth, this city was in a great measure rebuilt during the Roman age, and consequently there are not many of the very ancient massive houses now remaining. Further down on the plain, I saw Remi and Welga, two deserted towns. Every view we got in Bashan was a color demonstration of the literal fulfillment of the curse pronounced on the land by Moses more than 3,000 years ago. If ye will not hearken unto me and will not do all these commandments, I will scatter you among the heathen, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. So he's quoting Leviticus. Okay, so remember again, I better make that announcement. Okay, if you're in the chat and you want to continue to join us, we're going into overtime. You need to dial in to continue with us. Brother Sean got cut off. Oh, he back in. Okay, I see you, brother. I was reading, so I didn't see the board. Okay, so you got 2 minutes if you want to continue to join us, because the chat's going to shut down. We're going into overtime. You have to dial 929-477-3858 if you want to continue, 929-477-3858. Where am I at? Sorry, y'all.
After what the ruins of Suway do, because you just left off on the Bible verse at the top of 55.
Okay, yeah, I had a point to make, and I didn't set up and forget
about that I will scatter you among the heathen, and your land shall be desolate.
Yeah, it was about Moses. All right, remember early, he talked about, no, that was the video that one guy did on the Giants, and he did a pretty good job of it. when he talked about, was it Moses that was battling Og? Which
Yeah, he
Og
said
was documented
it was Moses.
Yeah, so Moses was battling Og, and Og is documented as the last of the giants, okay? Because Moses and them came over fucking with Og and them. Because
I think it was David who was battling Og, as far as I remember in the scripture.
I thought David battled Goliath.
Yeah, but there was also giants left after Goliath. He battled Goliath as a little boy, but in Samuel, Og was still around. He was the last giant of King of Bashan. Or something
I
like
just
that.
said he was the last giant.
Yeah, but it wasn't Moses. That's what I'm saying.
You said, so you don't think Moses battled him. I thought the giants lived a long time.
Yeah, but I don't believe it was Moses who did that in the Samuel. I'm just going by what it said in the book.
Okay. Okay, so in the Bible, who battled Og then?
It's in the book of Samuel. Let me look it up. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Because
I was just gonna make the point that
Moses was over here. He did the Red Sea and all that kind of junk, and the king of Egypt. Moses got the people out of it.
Who was told to go over there? I got land for you. Go over there and check it out.
Joshua.
And they went and checked it out, and they saw giants over there, and they came back and reported that, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, when you find it, sis, it's no biggie.
Because
when you
took over after Moses. He took over. Joshua took over after Moses.
Okay. Well, according to that. Well, according to that.
Og. You said King of Bashan or Og?
I just said Og. That it was documented that Og was the last giant. Now, actually, two gentlemen said that Moses was battling Og, and the one gentleman said that Og had picked up that damn mountain and was getting ready to throw it at them. And I think he got stabbed in the isn't it the Achilles tendon?
Achilles tendons, yeah. He said that's how they were taught
to
take down the bigger opponent.
Exactly.
And he said that Moses was lightweight, the giant itself. It's just Og was a bigger giant. He said Moses may have been like 10 to 13 feet, where Og was like 30 feet or more. And what Moses did was, jumped and cut his Achilles tendons. And then when he fell down, then that's when they all get on him.
And took him out. Took them out, because remember they had to make an alliance, somewhat of an alliance with Og, because they couldn't defeat him. So he was on the scene for a little bit, going to weddings and shit, talking about people like a dog, this, that, and the third. But they still, of course, wanted him gone. So allegedly that's how he got taken down by getting his Achilles heel sliced. So yes, sis, when you find it, just let us know who they say took out Og. All right.
I don't even see his name in this stupid thing here.
That's okay. I'm gonna read on, and then when you find it, just chime in. So it says, emerging from the oak forest, we found ourselves on a low, bare ridge with just out from the mountain some distance into the plain. It is divided down the center by a deep rocky ravine through which a winter torrent flows. The portion of this ridge south of the ravine is covered with the ruins of Suwede. We were riding up to them when my attention was attracted by a singular monument standing alone on a commanding site a few hundred yards north of the city. It is a square tower about 30 feet high. The sides are ornamented with Doric and semi-columns supporting a plain cornice, and between them on panels are shields, helmets, and trophies of arms sculpted in relief. A legion inscribed in Greek, and you told me that before. Is it Palarini? What did you say, Brother Sean? I just do not want to pronounce that properly.
I lost what you had.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. States that the Odinitis, son of Anilos, built this monument to Shamrati, his wife, or it could be Shamrati, his wife. Few and simple are the words. The story of Shamrati is unknown, or Shamrate. I don't know which one, y'all. What were her private virtues or public services, we cannot tell. Strange that this monument should stand as tribute of a husband, admiration, and love when the histories of husband, wife, and native cities have passed away for long centuries. It is worthy of note that the Odinitis was the name of the celebrated husband of the still more celebrated Zenobia. The Palmyrini, I think that's it. The Palmyrini inscription monument was seen to indicate that its founder was a native of the desert city. Perhaps the great Odinitis himself, during his warlike expedition into Syria, may have thus celebrated the virtues of a former wife. Crossing the ravine by a Roman bridge, we rode up to Suede, and under the guidance of the Sheikh's son, a fine, manly boy of some 14 years, splendidly dressed in a scarlet robe and armed with silver hilt sword and dagger, we proceeded to examine in detail the widespread ruins. I'm sorry, sis, did you have something?
No, I didn't. Actually, I think this Bible actually stops at the law, giving the law in Deuteronomy to the people, Moses' life. So that book you have there is past this one.
That's interesting.
I know it. I'm looking under Moses, and I don't see anything about Bashan or Og for Moses. Not
and
under the index.
You're looking at the Bible, right?
Right.
Okay. So that that just shows you how there was just different ancient texts.
I just went right here on Wikipedia. According to the Hebrew Bible, Og was the Amorite king of Bashan, who along with his army was slain by Moses and his men at the Battle of Edrei.
Amorite. And I remember the Amorite king. That was Saul, but anyway.
Okay, interesting.
In Arabic literature, he is referred to as Anj ibn Anak.
Well.
Anak, like
A-N-A-Q.
I know what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Like Enoch.
Yep.
Like Enoch.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
So they left a lot out.
Yep.
In fact, it was in D.C., the Bible Museum. They had on exhibit the quote-unquote slave Bible, and they talked about how much is removed from the Bible, especially all the stuff that tells slaves to be obedient.
Right.
They said it was like hundreds of chapters removed.
Which would make sense if just based on what.
But they saying this on mainstream media now.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I think that it shouldn't be a mystery now, because here's this man that is being paid by someone to do this expedition and document, and he has the Christian faith and background, and he keeps bringing up these biblical references, but his eyes are showing him the stories of the conquering of these particular lands, and how these indigenous people had their own culture, had their own form of worship. So no one can convince me that as conquerors are coming over, taking land, that they weren't snatching up those ancient texts. They cannot convince me that they were not doing that. So, of course, with the Bible, they're going to add and put in there what they want. The conqueror always going to make themselves out to be the good guy. They were the victim. And the indigenous people were the savages.
And they doing it for God.
Right, they doing it for God. But these other ancient texts fills in the rest of the holes in the story. And I'm telling y'all, I highly encourage you to get that book of Enoch.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty good.
Because it goes into the celestial world. It breaks down the metaphysics side that Enoch knew. It even goes into language. They're tying the language back to cuneiform, and according to the ancient text, cuneiform was used by the Anunnaki. So these are the things that were, quote, quote, why didn't they add all of that in the Bible? Because Enoch is a part of that Hebrew bloodline. So it is what it is. But, they left enough in there for us to trace it back. Oh, okay, so you forgot to put all this other part in there. Oh, okay then.
Yeah,
all
they
right.
didn't put it.
Yeah. So what did we say? We visited a Corinthian peristyle, a Roman gateway at the end of a straight street, nearly a mile in length, and paved throughout the ruins of a temple of the age of Trojan. The remains of a very large church, within whose crumbling walls is the modern Christian burying ground, a mosque, the roof of which was once supported on marble columns, doubtless rifled from an old church or a still older temple. Okay, so once again, Blood had to admit that more than likely it was an older temple there before the church repurposed that temple. So the temple belonging to the indigenous people, and then the conquerors repurposed. All right, so then we inspected the ruins of a fountain of an opera. Okay, so that got to be either the Greeks or the Romans. And a large theater, and we saw two immense reservoirs anciently supplied by aqueducts, which brought water from the neighboring mountains. Verily, the destroyer has been long at work in this old city. Here are ruins heaped upon the top of ruins, temples transformed into churches, churches again transformed into mosques, and mosques now dreary and desolate. Inscriptions were here side by side, recording each transformation and showing how the same building was dedicated to Jove, then to Saint George, and finally to Muhammad. Okay, so I don't know who Jove is, or Jove, Jove.
Job.
But Why ain't you adding the indigenous people stuff in there?
Because
So,
that's the three religions.
exactly. Exactly. We walked on after our little guide, winding amongst vast heaps of ruins, nothing but ruins and desolation and rent walls and fallen columns. The modern dwellings are just the lower stories of the ancient houses which have been cleared out and occupied, and the whole site has become so deeply covered with fallen structures that the people seem, for the most part, to be residing in caves. 30 or 40 boys with a fair sprinkling of men followed us, shouting and dancing in high glee at the strange figures of the Franks, the first, probably, that most of them had seen. We should have been seriously incommoded by their attentions, had it not been for the threats of our manly little guide, accompanied now and then by a volley of stones at the boy who ventured too near. As we passed the houses, too, and the cavern-like courtyards, portly women and coy girls peeped at us with one eye over the corner of their long white veils, and laughingly pointed out to each other some wondrous oddity about our dress, our hats or kettles, as they persisted in calling them, attracted most attention. In fact, we created among the quiet people of Suede quite a great sensation as a party of Arabs with their bronze faces, flame-colored turbans, and flowing robes would do in Cheapside or in the high streets of Edinburgh. Okay, so let me. Okay. So didn't he just say that it's also people, Arab over in Edinburgh, or did I just read that wrong? That practice the same religion and all that? Okay, then.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Just checking. Now, this 1865, okay? Just so we remember the time frame. Okay. I'm just checking. Okay, so no city in Bashan, not even Bozrah, its Roman capital, surpasses Suede in the extent of its ruins. And yet, strange to say, its ancient name is unknown. Oh, okay. And there is no mention of its history previous to the Crusades. So now, who's the heathen?
1099, 1066. That's it.
It seems to have suffered more from time and from the chances of war than any other city in the whole country. Inscriptions found on its monuments show that it was a flourishing city long before the conquest of Bashan by the Romans in AD 105, and that it carried on an extensive trade with Egypt and other countries down to the middle of the 4th century. William of Tyre, the historian of the Crusades, says of the region round the city, it is rich in the choicest products of nature, wine, corn, and oil. The climate is salubrious and the air pure. So late, therefore, as the 12th century, the country was prosperous and the city populous. We can see the evidence of this still. The hillsides are everywhere terraced, and plain and mountains alike bear the marks of former careful cultivation. The terraces are admirably fitted for the growth of the vine, the fig, and the olive, and the rich plain even now bears crops of grain whose luxuriance is proverbial. Nowhere in Bashan, nowhere in all Syria did I see such convincing evidence of the surprising richness and vast resources of the soil as around Suede. One would suppose that Moses had his eye upon it when he penned these words equally and beautifully and true. The Lord God bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains, and of depths that spring out of the valley and the hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land wherein thou shalt eat bread without scarceness. Thou shalt not lack anything in it. Deuteronomy. Okay, I'm going to pause. Now, who was infringing upon whom?
Yeah. And God did it. That's what he said.
Yeah, so just basically scoped out this land that was just all that and a bag of figs and pomegranate, honey and all that, chilling. No scarceness. You won't be lacking anything. Told Moses to go scope it out. But it was the land of the giants. And remember, he said earlier that, that was in one of the videos, one of the gentlemen said that the land was so plush that it took 2 men just to carry a vine of grapes.
No, just carry one grape.
Oh, one grape. My bad. I thought it was a vine. One grape.
That was just one grape.
Okay, so who infringed upon whom? And who is the wanderer and who is the heathen? Oh, okay then. And one would suppose, too, looking at the Bible and looking at the land, comparing prophetic description with authentic history and present reality, that the prophets must surely have read the long and sad history of Palestine as I read it, and that they must surely have seen the present utter ruin and terrible desolation of this part of it as I saw it, and that they must surely have heard from the lips of the people the story of their oppression and their dangers as I heard it before they could possibly have written such graphic words as these. I will make your cities waste and bring your sanctuaries into desolation. I will bring the lands into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. Leviticus. The generation to come of your children that shall rise up after you, and the stranger that shall come from a far land shall say, when they see the plagues of that land and the sickness which the Lord hath laid upon it, wherefore hath the Lord done thus until this land, which meaneth the heat of this great anger. Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Moses went to scout out this land. It was giants over in the land, but the land would show all of that with the big old grapes, pomegranates, olives, wheat, barley, honey, etc., etc. So they went over there messing with the giants, warring the giants, got the land. Okay, Og finally gets taken down. He was the last of that particular giant race, because I guess that there was multiple sets of bloodlines of giants.
I found it.
Okay, so you found
it. I found it. It's in Deuteronomy. Now, but the land you're describing with the fig trees and honey and all that kind of stuff, you think that's on this side? Because it doesn't say it's on this side in here of the continent. It's on the eastern side of the continent.
Yeah, it's on the eastern side now. I mean, that's just like how they got it stated about oak trees. If they depleted complete forests and whole ecosystems over there, how do we know what was over there and what wasn't?
Yeah, but they have that dryness that figs and all that kind of stuff grows. It was Sihon king of Heshbon, and Og king of Bashan came out against them to battle, and they conquered them. So and they took their land and gave it to an inheritance to the Reubenites and the Gadites and half of the tribe of Manasseh. So that's in 29:789.
Okay. So I'm assuming you go on to read that they eventually got overrun out of the land too.
Yeah, most people. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm still just tripping on the dogma that the people that inhabit it now are suffering a curse because they took it from the Hebrews who took it from somebody else. Oh, okay then. Okay. I guess the curses applies to who you want them to apply to. Oh, okay then. So, it goes, there are only a very few of multitudes of similar predictions. And let it be observed, the predictions are not made in mere general terms capable of a wide rendering and a somewhat vague reference. They are special, graphic, and detailed, and their fulfillment is evident as it is complete. The fields are waste, the roads deserted, the city abandoned, the houses without inhabitants, the sanctuaries desecrated, the vineyards, orchards, and groves destroyed. And the land is desolate by the violence. And he had the nerve to put the violence in quotation, y'all. And the folly of all them that dwelt therein, of the Turks, its nominal owners, and of the Arabs, its periodical spoilers, who come up upon all high places through the wilderness. Everyone that passes by it is astounded at its deserted cities and waste fields, and the stranger that come from a far country, the thoughtful student of history, the thoughtful observer, the thoughtful reader of his Bible cannot refrain from exclaiming as he rides through Bashan, wherefore hath the Lord done this unto this land? Okay, so he runs the Arabs in the ground. He calling them Arabs or the Turks. They're really Turks. That they're the wanderers that come through the wilderness. But did you not forget how the Hebrews got the land? Wasn't they just coming out of wandering? If I remember the story correct, according to the Holy Bible, they were just coming from wandering.
For 40 years.
Right, for 40 years. And they took that land. But the Arabs, the wanderers. Oh, okay then. Okay. The noble Druze chief of Suwede, Sheikh Wake Hamdan, was absent on our arrival, but in the evening he returned and entertained us with a hospitality that would have done honor to the patriarch Job, who is represented by a local tradition as having been the first prince of Suwede. When the evening banquet was over, the whole elders of the town crowded into the large reception room of Sheikh Wake and squatted in the concentric circle around the blazing fire. Ooh, my knees popped just hearing that. We occupied.
Hold it, back up right quick.
Sure.
The patriarch Job who is represented by local tradition as having been the first prince of Sueda. First prince, Job. So, I mean, we talking royalty all up and through there, and common folk trying to talk like they got something in common with these people, or that any of these exploits have anything to do with them. No, just recalling how they, how the victor gets to rewrite history and this, that, or the other. I mean, you really just don't see none of the common folk referred to by name or anything like that. It was just heathens or this, that, or the other. So, I mean, the average, quote-unquote, everyday person who's not in the royal bloodline, I mean, if you saying that you from over there and that's where your ancestors from, I mean, if that's where your ancestors really and truly from, then I think them the people that was getting fucked up. And once again, you trying to be the people that they fuck you up, they get a free pass. You want to be them. I mean, cognitive dissonance.
Yep. Agreed.
I mean, it's just a trip how violent the book is and what people were told to do by God. But yet and still you have these commandments where these very things that he tell you to do, you're not supposed to do.
Right.
But y'all waiting on him and his son.
Right.
And Moses means Moshe, Moshika, and Musa. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how your name changed from one language to another.
Yeah, that blew me back.
I know a Chinese guy. He called me Sean. He don't call me something else. The Arab guy at the gas station. He remarkably calls me Sean. I mean, who would have guessed that other cultures and other languages can actually say your name? But we know the way that they change names and this, that, or the other. But Musa being a family name and Musa meaning Moses means Moses was a family name. And
right.
Maybe not just one person, because how the hell else did he do all that shit he did for so goddamn long? Because, I mean, first you part of the Pharaoh's army, you a great general, and this, that, or the other. And you done that for, you was good and grown when you allegedly went out in the wilderness for 40 years, just conquering motherfuckers. I mean, you even killed your wife's family. They took you in instead of the other. And then you turn around and killed her family.
Because she was indigenous to whatever land she was in, right?
And then he turned right around and killed her family. I guess God got paranoid, like, hold up. They got too many sheep over there, Moses. Fuck that. Look, nigga, look how many sheep that nigga got. He balling out of control.
Right.
Go get it.
And let's not forget that he not lived among the pharaohs that they raised him.
Yeah.
So But he's documented as being a giant, so that meant the pharaohs and all of them was giants, and he had to look pretty much like them to be passed off as their son, right? That had been grown up with them pretty much all his life.
Learned in all the ways of the Egyptian mysteries.
Right. Right. Which we know if we back up, Enoch knew those same mysteries. Because he's known as, what's the transformer name? Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Metatron. Yeah, Metatron. Yeah, Metatron. Okay. All right, then. Okay, but when people talk about know thyself, spirituality, the natural laws of the universe, and those same sciences that Moses them, Enoch them used. Oh, you trying to be something different. Oh, okay then. So it just apply to them, but it don't apply to me. And because I will not bow down to those deities, I'm trying to be something that I'm not. Oh, okay then. Okay. Whatever you say. But they have high priests who have this information, but I'm not supposed to know this information and use this information, which is inherently available to everyone. I'm supposed to bow down to some other entity outside of myself and not use the sciences of the land and of the universe. Oh, okay then. Okay. All right. So, where we are. Okay, so yeah, they were squatting around in this circle. We occupied the seat of honor on a raised dais beside the sheikh. Rings of white turbans, the distinguishing headdress of the Druses, appeared round and round us, here and there broken by crimson, what's that, kefia of a Bedouin, or black kerchief of a Christian. An Egyptian sat by the fire preparing and distributing coffee, while an I'm getting tired. Abyssinian slave behind him pounded the fragrant berries in a huge oak mortar, beating time with the pestles, which bore some resemblance in the form and size to an. You see that, Brother Sean? Chow. Stop me dead in my tracks. Which, I'm just going to reread that little part, which bore some resemblance in form and size to an Indian war club. Remember, this 1865, blood is writing this. All right, so each guest on drinking rose to his knee, touched forehead and lips with his right hand, and bowed to the sheikh. Then, on sitting down again, he made another similar salam intended for the rest of the company, and those near him returned it with a muttered prayer that the refreshment might do him good. It was an interesting scene and was probably not unlike the reception of guests in the mansions of Job and in the tents of Abraham. We talked of politics, of war, and of poetry, and most of the company took part in the conversation with a respectful propriety and good sense that surprised me. The poetry of the Arabs had some striking peculiarities.
Peculiarity.
Yes, peculiarities. Their poets often describe the virtues and achievement of distinguished men in short stanzas containing 2 or 4 measures. Yeah, that's short as hell, ain't it? 2 or 4 measures. And the beauty of the rhythm and boldness of imagery are sometimes of higher order. There is a species of composition which they often try, in which many are adept. It is difficult for those who are ignorant of the peculiar structure of the Arabic language to understand its nature. A word is taken, and by changing its form, a series of distinct acts is described, each act being expressed by a different inflection of the root. One word will thus occur 6, 8, or 10 times in a stanza, with the addition of a prefix or suffix, or the insertion of an intermediate letter or an alternative in a vowel point. And each change conveys a new and definite meaning. The warlike achievements of a favorite leader are not unfrequently graphically described in this manner by skillful and varied inflections of his own name. The Hebrew scholar will find something analogous to this in Jacob's play upon the word Gilead in Genesis 46 through 48. I should have, what's that, 10, 20, 30. I don't know what I represents, y'all, so my bad. I can't give you the chapter. But anyhow, but the best example of the kind in Scripture are given in Hosea chapter 1 and 2 on the word Jezreel. All right. Go ahead, yeah, because I had some stuff I want to say on this. Yes, Brother Sean.
Okay. Wordplay.
Yep.
Seem like your first Black's Law Dictionary. That's about. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Now, interestingly enough, that's why I ran across that before I came on the air, because I gotta find my copy of the Book of Enoch. Okay, because I remember them going into language in the Book of Enoch. All right, but anyway, I just ran across a Google search that was talking about Enoch and language, and they said that Enoch had the language of the angels, right? And they even show this language, and it looks close to Hebrew scripture, Sanskrit, cuneiform. Now, here's the interesting part. This particular language that Enoch had, that they're calling the language of the angels, a cat took it in the 1800s, y'all. 1800s and some change, over in Europe. And he was studying it from an occultist perspective. So, again, I say, who's being bamboozled here? Because the very thing that, all of these religions tell folks that they're not supposed to do, okay, particularly studying the sciences, the occult, sorcery, oh, but it was okay for Enoch, all of them to do it. And then we wonder why 1% controls 99%. Because the 1% enter and understand that all of the power that they need is within self, and they can use the tools of the sciences to make it work in their advantage. So they're taking your ancestral sciences and using it to control you. And in the meantime, you still waiting on Sky Daddy. And Sky Daddy got you giving your energy and your power to these demigods or demiurges. So now who's being bamboozled? The people that go within, or the people that's looking out of themselves, outward, for something or someone to save them? Just gonna throw that out there. They keep showing you over and over again. This is the second text that we have read when we went through the book of demonology. They talked about the witches using the occult and the languages. And I forgot to mention back to the Netflix series that I was talking about, Versailles. The witches was putting together potions on that ass too. Okay, and it made me reflect back to the book of demonology. So again, who's getting bamboozled? How? Because all that happened was, as these indigenous lands were overthrown and their ancient sciences and texts taken up, and they didn't burn all that shit, you best believe they sent copies to the Vatican, but forbade the indigenous people not to use those things so they can control them. And that shit still lingers to this day, because folks do not want to let go of that Bible. They do not want to let it go. Folks want to associate themselves with the conquerors. But you still have to follow, and that's cool. Hey, I don't have a problem with it. If that's what you want to do, boo, that is your right. But enter and understand there's consequences to that. You are bowing down to someone outside of self, and you will follow their rules. So now, who's the fool again? Who's being bamboozled? The one that goes within and uses the sciences for self, or the one that has to go through a middleman and bow down to some other entity? And at this point, you're really not even sure what that entity is. You think you know what that entity is. So I'm just putting it out there. We keep telling you, language is a spell. Images can be spells. If you don't go within and use the sciences to your advantage, you're going to always follow someone else's script. And that's fine if you are comfortable with that. but know what the consequences are. And by all means, don't point your finger at the ones that proclaim self and who they are. So I'm just putting that out there. All right. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
The warlike achievements of a favorite leader are not infrequently graphically described in this manner by skillful and varied inflections of his own name. Not varied inflections of his own name. The God of many names, I mean, what? I mean, who or what are we talking about for real, for real?
Exactly. And people don't even know. They don't even know because they're worshiping something outside of self based on information that was handed to them by conquerors. And then you don't understand and overstand the conditions that go on with slavery. I keep telling you, slavery starts in the mind. And if you cannot be responsible for self, take ownership of self, know that it starts with self, and you have to tune in to nature, to the planet, to get your power, you're always going to follow someone's script, and your conditions never change. I don't care what ideology you run to, whether it be any of the religions we know today, whether you jump into spirituality and go under somebody else's set form of worship, anything outside of self, you are serving someone else. Something else. All right. But meantime, again, those same sciences, your sciences, are being used to control you. All right, so I'm going to read this last paragraph, and then we're going to wrap up because I want to make sure I play my song. I'm not going back and forth with you wiggers, because I mean that to the core. I'm not going to keep going back and forth with folks on who I'm allegedly am, what I should allegedly be focused on. I'm not going back and forth. So let me hurry up and read this so we can wrap up, and we'll pick back up next week. The morning we left Suede dawned gloomy and threatening. A heavy thunderstorm had passed over the place during the night. Never before in Syria had I seen rain heavier or lightning more vivid. For an hour or more, the flashes seemed to form one of the continuous stream, lightening up the ruins of the city and the gleams and the rocks of the neighboring mountains with an intense, lurid blaze. In the morning, dark, lowering clouds still swept along the surface of the ground and enveloped the whole mountains. The air was cold, and the smart showers, which fell at intervals, made it feel still colder. But as the wind was high and the veering round to the north, we knew the day would be fine, for the scripture statement still holds good in the scripture land. Fair weather come out of the north. Job. Okay, so I'm not going to start a new paragraph. We will pick back up next week. So, sis, do you have any last words for the family?
Well, it's an interesting read. I'm sorry about that Moses stuff. I thought that was after his death. But anyway, it doesn't. I'll just say sorry. But, I hear everything. I really do. I just don't understand too much of anything as far as all the history and the artifacts that do exist and what that paper is saying there. So I have a hole somewhere in my understanding because there's artifacts and earth change things that are in existence in certain areas. So anyway, I will leave that at that. I'm learning.
Yep, makes
and
sense.
And I can process it as I go.
Absolutely, and that's all we can do. Take it in, digest what you need, spit out the rest. But again, that's why I keep saying this is all about self. You have to internalize, and once you make those connections, and I'm not just saying you, sis, I'm saying in general, you're going to get the answers that you search for because they're all within you. So, but great point. Brother Sean, you have any last words for the family?
Yeah. Like Sis said, everything we do is to get y'all to get in touch with who you are. Is to get you to go within. I discuss any topic if I figure it's going to trigger something in you to make you go within you. We all here learning or actually remembering because there's nothing new under the sun. You have to let go of all the bullshit. Let go of everything that has prevented you from being who and what you are. We all came up under the same indoctrination. But at some point, you have to look at you and who your bloodline is. Because all of that is in you. All of them are in you. Not somebody else's ancestors. Not somebody else's story. Your story, your truth. That's all I want you to find. I don't want nothing from you but for you to be you.
Beautiful, beautiful ending with both. I want to thank my co-hosts, Sis Sandra and Brother Sean, and thank you, family, for going on this journey with us. We will definitely pick back up next week. Love you very much, and so I got to play this song. Thank you, Brother 832. This is going out to living my best so-and-so life. I'm not going back and forth. So here we go. Peace and love. Love you much, family.